Chapter 101 _ The strongest overlord is domineering. I must have read it wrong. The world's largest swordsman, Hawkeye Mahawk, he lost. In the field of swordsmanship, he lost to Li Ang. You read that right, we all read it right, Hawkeye is defeated. From now on, the world's greatest swordsman, whose name is Li Ang. Today's battle is simply breathtaking. I didn't expect to witness a sword fight with my own eyes. Next, a real war will break out. It's no longer one-on-one, because in a one-on-one situation, the Navy headquarters, even if Karp is excluded, can't compete with Li Ang. Quote. Many pirates were amazed and witnessed the defeat of Hawkeye, which was definitely a very terrifying thing for them. The image of Hawkeye's defeat was transmitted to every corner of the world by the image worm. Countless civilians are also boiling over it. The title of the world's greatest swordsman is about to change. Big event, Li Ang has become the world's largest swordsman and the top person in the field of swordsmanship. From now on, Hawkeye is no longer the number one swordsman, he can only stand in the second position. As for number one, Li Ang deserves it. I even think that Li Ang is not really serious at all. Beating Hawkeye is as simple as drinking water. Lots of talk. Some newspaper staff quickly printed this piece of news. The seagulls flew into the air and conveyed this message in every corner of the world. The world's largest swordsman is about to change hands. The new owner, named Li Ang. The wall of the G3 branch. A heavy expression on his face, Warring States said, "Let's do it, we can't let him defeat them one by one. In this way, our efforts will be in vain." In a one-on-one situation, there are very few people in this world who can compete with Li Ang. Kazuna deeply agreed and nodded. Who has played against Li Ang the most times? Undoubtedly. This person is naturally the Yellow Monkey himself. As for Li Ang's terrifying strength, Kizaru was more aware of what a terrifying monster Li Ang was in front of him. If it was a one-on-one wheel battle, Li Ang would be 100% victorious. Even Lieutenant General Garp couldn't beat Li Ang, it was a fact. Next, only when everyone is dispatched can they compete with Li Ang. Immediately, everyone's spirits became tense. Only Hancock and Doflamingo looked slightly relaxed. Anyway, the two of them didn't plan to go all out. Isn't this asking for trouble? At the same time, after Li Ang defeated Hawkeye, he raised his head and looked at the G3 branch ahead, as well as the many terrifying high-level naval personnel on the fence. "Let me see if you can stop me, Diaresis. Li Ang kicked his feet, and the ground cracked with deep marks. At the same time, he sprinted towards the position of the G3 branch. In a blink of an eye, almost everyone could only see the afterimage of Li Ang. In the blink of an eye, Li Ang's figure appeared on the wall with a calm expression. He looked at the Warring States and the others who were less than 10 meters away, and said with a smile, "You are waiting for me, and now, I am here." Silence. The atmosphere became extremely depressing. Sengoku and Garp stood side by side, looking at Li Ang. How many years has it been? Neither of them fought side by side again, and now, because of a Li Ang, they were finally allowed to fight side by side again. In addition, 2 generals were added, and the remaining 3 Chiwahai. This terrifying force is just to deal with Li Ang's mere one person. This can show from the side, Li Ang's personal terrifying strength. Chapter 101 _ The strongest overlord is domineering. Please customize it. This can show from the side, Li Ang's personal terrifying strength. Li Ang, take it easy. The corners of the Warring States' mouth moved slightly. I can still save your life, it won't do you any good if you are obsessed with it. Don't talk about these falsehoods, I'll take it down. If I really wanted to take it down, I wouldn't be here. Are you right, Marshal of the Warring States? Li Ang said with a smile, the armed domineering all over his body has covered his body. The ultimate armed color gave him the power to terrify to the extreme. It is also true to those who deal with devil fruit abilities. It's useless to talk too much. Liang, right. Let me see, what skills do you have to destroy the G3 branch fortress under my command? Garp stepped forward, a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Although he is old, his strength has not diminished too much. I almost forgot, it turns out that the G3 branch belongs to Lieutenant General Garp. Liang patted his forehead and smiled in surprise. He really didn't expect that the G3 branch was a branch fortress where Garp was stationed. Now he just reacted. However, there is not much turbulence. It doesn't matter who is stationed in the branch. Anyway, in his hands, it will be reduced to ruins, so there is no need to care too much. Damn it. Akainu's voice was hoarse, lava poured out of his hands, and he was always ready to attack. The golden ape radiated golden light all over his body, ready to go. The Bartholomew bear was expressionless and motionless. The Empress Hancock and Doflamingo didn't do much either. Relatively speaking, neither of them meant to kill Liang. As long as you pretend to be in front of the Navy headquarters, that's enough. As for killing Liang, do not make jokes. If they could kill Liang, they wouldn't need to stand here. Behind the Warring States period, there were still many vice admirals with serious faces. The atmosphere was suppressed to the extreme. In front of him, Liang has to face the following people: Sengoku, Garp, Akainu, Kizaru, Bartholomew, 2 Shichibukai who are not doing anything, and about 5 vice admirals of the Navy headquarters. This power, even Liang has to admit, needs to be taken seriously by him. If you're not serious, you're not sure, you'll really be arrested here. At this moment, a voice appeared in Liang's head. Diaresis, congratulations to the host. Open the Readaloud modifier, the Overlord Domineering plus 999,999. Open black lens bracket comprehend gas swallows thousands of miles close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough novice close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough entry close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough proficiency close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough master close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough master close black lens bracket. The Overlord is domineering. It's such a coincidence that you came here. Liang's eyes narrowed slightly, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he smiled. After the modifier has just been modified, Liang himself could clearly feel that a tyrannical energy was pouring into his body. The sudden and extreme domineering allows Liang to display freely. The strongest overlord is domineering, no longer red-haired, but Liang. Liang's domineering arrogance can also last for time, and can effectively weaken the surrounding enemies. Although it has little effect on Garp Sengoku and others, at least the influence on the ordinary lieutenant generals of the naval headquarters is quite obvious. NLT, 42 and GT. Chapter 102 _ The Power of Overlord Color, please customize it. G3 branch, on the fence. The sword is drawn. Liang himself was on one side, and the other side had a large number of people, including Sengoku Kapu Akainu and others, forming a terrifying combat force that gathered many high-level personnel of the Navy headquarters. And at the same time, Liang gained the domineering power of the Overlord. Let me see how it works. The corners of Liang's mouth moved slightly, and he smiled lightly. Well. Warring States frowned and felt a terrible aura from Liang's body. Buzz. The terrifying Overlord is domineering, like a trend, with Liang as the center point, sweeping the audience. Click. There were cracks in the huge wall. This is a solid stone wall, and it actually cracked under the impact of Liang's domineering arrogance. This domineering arrogance is simply countless times stronger than the red-haired one. Crash. There were obvious cracks in the wall, and then a piece of stone fell, hitting the sea, causing waves. The whole place was silent. Sengoku, Garp and the others looked at Liang in horror. This momentum made them feel a little heavy. Domineering. Doflamingo was a little sluggish and blurted out. He himself is domineering, but, who can explain to him, how did the 693 domineering achieve this level? Immediately, Brother Doflamingo turned his gaze to the wall beside him. The traces of the cracks were proof that Li Ang exuded the horror of this tyrannical domineering. I'm going, can the overlord be so domineering? Doflamingo's throat was dry and he swallowed, thinking to himself. Even he himself didn't know that the overlord is domineering and can bring such a huge deterrent effect to the dead. This is not just a matter of affecting people's fighting spirit. Rather, an intellectual attack. Even the female Emperor Hancock was startled. She herself has the overlord color, but her overlord color is like a drop in the ocean, weak and powerless in front of Li Ang's overlord color. Li Ang's whole body exudes a domineering look of domineering, like the vast ocean, gushing endlessly. And Hancock's own domineering arrogance is a little weak, just a little entry. There is no harm without contrast. Especially the two of them, Chiwahai. Even Garp's own domineering arrogance has not reached this level. Does the overlord look domineering? The corner of Garp's mouth moved slightly, looking at the crack on the wall next to him, the waves in his heart tumbling. Throughout the years he has lived, he has fought countless enemies, and he has fought with Roger, the Pirate King, countless times, and Whitebeard has also fought countless times. However, he had never heard of this domineering arrogance. No one has ever cherished such a terrifying overlord. But today, Garp saw it and felt it from Li Ang, a young man in his 20s. This domineering arrogance is simply known as the number one in the world. Hey, is it true? Huang Yuan's pupils shrank, the corners of his mouth moved slightly, and he said in surprise. He didn't even realize that, emotionally, Li Ang still possessed such a terrifying domineering arrogance. This is the ability that Li Ang did not show in the previous battle. Chapter 102 The Power of Overlord. Please customize it. This is the ability that Li Ang did not show in the previous battle. Now, I don't even know how many trump cards Li Ang still has that he hasn't shown. Of course. What they don't know at all is that Li Ang just realized the ultimate overlord color, but if he says it, no one will believe it. The domineering arrogance of the overlord who just realized it will reach such a terrifying level. So how do people like Garp live? Garp has the overlord color, at least for decades. Even so, it is difficult to increase the degree of overlord color. On the contrary, it has also weakened with the passage of time. And Li Ang in front of him, at such an age, possesses such a terrifying domineering look, his potential is endless. Can't stay. Akainu's face became very heavy and his voice was low. Feeling the tyrannical look on Li Ang, he became more aware that Li Ang must not stay in this world. CIAC if Li Ang cannot be killed today. In the future, Li Ang has grown to such an extent that their naval headquarters cannot be shaken. That is the real disaster. However, Akainu didn't know. Today's Li Ang is already a huge disaster for the Navy headquarters. Buzz. Li Ang's domineering arrogance swept away. Shrouded in the bodies of many Navy soldiers, the substantive aura shocked them, and instantly made them roll their eyes, foam at the mouth, and fall to the ground. Click. The cracks in the walls became more obvious. The most terrifying thing is that this domineering arrogance lasts for a while, not instant. The instant domineering arrogance is the level of Garp and others today. I don't know if Garp had a persistent overlord color when he was young. Anyway, the current Garp is unable to use the overlord color continuously. The difference is here. Li Ang's overlord color can last for a long time. However, the domineering arrogance of the female Emperor Hancock, Doflamingo and others can only be activated once in an instant, and it takes a while before they can be activated again. At this point, Li Ang completely dumped them countless times. In a blink of an eye. Under the shock of Li Ang's terrifying domineering look, all the Navy members of the large Navy branch gradually fell to the ground, their eyes turning white. Tens of thousands of naval soldiers, all of them at the same time, fainted. Li Ang's domineering arrogance is simply terrifying to the extreme. The range that can be attacked is also quite wide, and even those Navy soldiers hundreds of meters away were instantly knocked unconscious and fell to the ground unconscious. The scene of tens of thousands of people falling to the ground at the same time is really shocking. This picture, presented in the eyes of many pirates, made them stunned. What happened? Why all of a sudden, that group of Navy fell down? What force interfered with them? Did Li Ang do all of this? However, he did nothing, just stood still, and made the tens of thousands of Navy soldiers incapacitated. This is a miracle. I know, I finally know. This is what the legend says, the overlord arrogance. What? Domineering and domineering, the kind of potential that only 1 in a million people will appear, the king's potential. Quote. Many pirates were moved, and their expressions were even more excited. Combat became more and more exciting. Who would have known that Li Ang still possessed such a terrifying domineering arrogance that even the Navy soldiers hundreds of meters away were shrouded in his tyrannical arrogance and lost consciousness. The picture captured by the image bug has been conveyed to the sight of many pirates, navies, and civilians. Many people were shocked by Li Ang's domineering arrogance. Chapter 103_All-Out War. The Overlord is domineering, a rare encounter among millions of people, a genius with the potential of a king. Carp's eyes were dignified and his heart lingered, and the shock on his face could not be erased. Li Ang's domineering arrogance brought him too much horror. Sengoku, Akainu, and Kizaru all looked at Li Ang, and there was a heavy pressure on their bodies, which suppressed them. Although, this pressure is not too big of a problem for people of their level. But if it is a Lieutenant Admiral level navy, it is a very effective obstacle. The idle people have been cleaned up. Now, let me see the highest combat power of your naval headquarters. Hope, don't let me down too much. The corners of Li Ang's mouth moved slightly, and he smiled lightly. He stood here as a whole, and his whole body exuded a terrifying domineering look. The persistent overlord color gives the enemy a heavy sense of oppression. Tens of thousands of Navy soldiers were all shocked by his overlord color and fainted. The rest of the people who still retain consciousness are only the powerhouses above the level of lieutenant generals. However, the lieutenant general still struggled a bit in the face of Li Ang's tyrannical appearance. Go! Sengoku's whole body exudes a golden light. I see. He turned into a big Buddha and was ready for battle. The Great Buddha of the Warring States period, this title is not for nothing. It's just that he hasn't used the power of the devil fruit for a long time. As a marshal, there are very few things that he can do himself. But now, due to Li Ang's terrifying oppression, Warring States had to do it himself. Garp's hands were covered with a layer of invisible armed color, his face was serious, and he looked at Li Ang, not daring to be careless. Feeling Li Ang's domineering look, it is basically certain that Li Ang's strength is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. Even the king under the Chiwahai, the world's largest swordsman's eagle eye, tried to lose in Li Ang's hands, and the tragic defeat made Eagle Eye unable to participate in the next battle. Akainu and Kizaru made every effort to activate the devil fruit, ready to go. Doflamingo and Empress Hancock also symbolically used the power of devil fruit, but they both knew it very well. The two of them wanted to compete with Li Ang, but they were still too far away. Only Bartholomew was expressionless, not knowing what was going on in his heart. Come on. Li Ang held a black knife and autumn water, and his body was covered with a layer of armed color armor, which was indestructible. I see. He raised his hand and chopped it off. Call out. A sharp slash slammed into the position in front of him. Shock. The whole body of the Warring States period shone with golden light, and a large Buddha slowly raised his right hand to resist Li Ang's slash. The terrifying impact swept the audience, and the frontal slash with Li Ang swelled. Boom. A loud bang. Turmoil occurred on the walls of the huge G3 branch. Smoke billows. A figure quickly raised a few steps back. At first glance, this person turned out to be the Warring States period. The person who was repelled turned out to be the Marshal of the Navy headquarters, the Warring States period. That's right. Cap was a little surprised, looked at the Warring States, and asked, Warring States, you haven't fought for many years, you are already unfamiliar, right? Almost, I will be able to recover soon. However, his strength is really strong. With a solemn expression on his face, the Warring States said bluntly. I have to admit that the slash just now contained very terrifying power. Even the power of his devil fruit was forcibly shaken, even better. Let me try his level of strength. Carp moved forward, the corners of his mouth moved slightly, shave. His whole person disappeared from everyone's sight. In the 6 naval styles, Carp used it very well. In the blink of an eye, Garp appeared beside Liang, punching with both fists, expressionless. Chapter 103 Full-Scale War. In the blink of an eye, Garp appeared beside Liang, punching with both fists, expressionless. Liang's eyelids moved slightly, turning his head to one side, dodging Carp's attack, and retreating, holding the black knife Chu Shui, he slashed down. Call out. The sharp slash attacked Garp's position. Boom. Garp's fists condensed armed color, and he punched out, abruptly deflected Liang's slash, unscathed. His face was calm, but his eyes became more solemn. This brief confrontation made Carp understand that Liang's strength was as terrifying as rumored. Be careful. Carp's mouth moved slightly, and he said in a low voice. At the same time, Akainu and Kizaru launched a fierce offensive. Ming Dog. Laser. The magma and light penetrated and launched an indiscriminate attack on Liang's position. Boom. The sound was loud, the ground shook, and the entire G3 branch wall was destroyed with thousands of holes, and huge pits appeared. A cloud of white smoke covered the area ahead. After the white smoke dissipated, everyone was unable to capture Liang's figure. Liang's speed is too fast. Are you looking for me? A voice sounded faintly in Akainu's ears. Well. Akainu's pupils shrank, and when he turned his hand, a mass of magma attacked. But nothing hits, just melts a wall. As for Liang's figure, he didn't even see it. I'm right in front of you. Liang's figure gradually appeared in front of Akainu, with a faint smile on his face. 0. Light speed kick. On the side, Huang Yuan's eyes were quick and his hands were quick. He quickly urged the attack, and swiftly attacked and killed Liang. Liang disappeared again. The speed of light kicked the floor, penetrating the floor through a deep hole, and it was pitch black. The top-level combat power of the Navy headquarters has all started. But at the beginning of the collision, they still couldn't help Liang. Because Liang's speed is really too fast. It's my turn. Liang's eyes narrowed slightly, and Chu Shui chopped off with a knife. Call out, call out, call out. One after another fierce slashes slashed the floor, and obvious cracks appeared. A terrifying offensive swept everyone in the audience. Even the female Emperor Hancock and Doflamingo who did not want to participate in the war were shrouded in it, and they had to burst out the power of the devil fruit to resist Liang's slash. Boom. Garp, Sengoku, Akainu and others made their moves at the same time. At the same time, they blocked Liang's slash, looked at each other, and took the initiative to attack. They understand. If you don't attack at the same time, it's hard to find Liang's flaws. If they can't find Liang's flaws, it will be more and more unfavorable to them if they continue to stalemate. Kazuna, you are responsible for keeping an eye on his every move. Warring States took a deep breath and said solemnly. Yeah. Huang Yuan understood and focused his attention on Liang. In the face of Liang's terrifying speed, there must be a person who pays close attention to Liang's every move in order to effectively know the opponent's next move and measures. Chapter 104 _ killed a yellow monkey in seconds. Please customize it. With Huang Yuan on the side paying close attention to Li Yang's actions, the Warring States Brewing's offensive was more serious, and there was no need to worry about being confused by Li Yang's speed. Attack! The whole body of the Warring States period shone with golden light, like a big Buddha. He stretched out his hand, and a terrifying shockwave erupted from his right hand, attacking Li Yang's position. Front. Li Yang held the black knife Chushui, his face was calm, and he slashed down. Boom. Two terrifying forces collided and cancelled each other out. At the same time, Garp has appeared beside Li Yang. He and Warring States have been old comrades in arms for many years, and naturally they can cooperate perfectly. At the same time as the Warring States attacked, Garp was ready to attack and kill Li Yang. The armed color is domineering, and it permeates Garp's fist. Although the tyrannical armed color is not as good as Li Yang, it also possesses terrifying power. Pick me up. Garp was expressionless and punched out. This punch, the speed is very, 773, fast. But Li Yang's speed was obviously faster than this. One day after tomorrow, he avoided Garp's punch. However, Garp did not retreat, but continued to launch a fierce attack. Boom, boom, boom. Li Yang held the black sword Chushui, and used his armed color and superb swordsmanship to compete with Garp's fist. However, a discerning person will understand. The battle between the two, in fact, is that Garp is slightly at a disadvantage. Li Yang dealt with it calmly. At first, he had a relationship with Garp, but as time passed, he gradually controlled the rhythm of the battle. Therefore, Li Yang was suddenly in a situation of suppressing Garp. C. It is naturally impossible for the Warring States to stand by and join the battlefield quickly, using the power of the devil fruit to create a shock wave. Each time, Li Yang had to evacuate quickly. The magma appeared in Akainu's hands, with a very violent power, covering Li Yang's position. Although it didn't hit every time, it still brought effective obstacles to Li Yang. Kizaru kept a close eye on Li Yang, and if he caught any opportunity, he would receive a thunderous blow. Bartholomew also joined the battlefield, but his strength was not at the level of the three major generals. In the battle with Li Yang used slashes to force the bear back many times. The other two Chihuahai, the female Emperor Hancock and Doflamingo, occasionally played soy sauce, and casually used the ability of the devil fruit to interfere. Want to make them desperate? It's just a dream. They didn't want to provoke Li Yang for no reason. What's more, they didn't have any hatred with Li Yang. Why did they kill Li Yang so hard? Could it be that after killing Li Yang, will the Navy headquarters give them a certain reward? Impossible. They are Chihuahai, and doing these things is an obligation. But whether they are serious or not depends on their own attitude. Might have noticed something weird. Hancock looked suspiciously at Brother Doflamingo and seemed to have guessed that the other party should have the same plan as him. Don't look at it, you and I have the same plans, each other. Doflamingo glanced at Hancock and said bluntly. Everyone knows that. It's nothing more than just wanting to play soy sauce in this battle. Except for the two, even the Warring States and others in the Navy headquarters were aware of this. It's just that everyone is tacit, and there is no point in breaking it. Hancock withdrew his gaze coldly and looked at Li Yang in front of him, his beautiful eyes showing a bit of brilliance. Big Spitfire. Clouds of magma emerged from Akainu's hands and slammed down. Li Yang kicked his feet and disappeared. The ground collapsed directly due to the attack of the magma, and a huge gap appeared. The entire fence was constantly being destroyed because of this battle. At this level of battle, it is definitely impossible not to destroy some buildings. Boom. A loud bang. The wall collapsed in an instant. The wall of the G3 branch finally couldn't bear the aftermath of the battle caused by Li Yang and others, and completely collapsed, hitting the sea and causing waves. Come again. Chapter 104 Kill the yellow ape in seconds. Please customize it. Come again. Li Yang's figure appeared on the floor in the G3 branch, looking at the people who landed with him. he smiled lightly. The battle environment here is more spacious, and it can be more effective to perform moves. Your death is coming. Akainu's face was expressionless, and he said solemnly. Shockwave. Sengoku stretched out his right hand, and the shockwave pierced the ground where Liang was standing. When Liang jumped up, Garp was already waiting for Liang's figure in the air and punched him. It's a perfect match. It really deserves to be an old comrade in arms. Liang felt a little emotional, and hurriedly held Chushui to block it. But still, the power brought by Garp's punch forced him down from the sky, smashed to the ground, and raised a burst of smoke. It's now. Sengoku's eyes flickered and he shouted loudly. At the same time, a terrifying shockwave erupted from his body, shrouding the area ahead. Akainu quickly attacked the magma with both hands and shouted, "Big fire!" In the sky, a mass of magma landed and reached the ground together with the shockwave. Bachi Chongu-yu. Kizaru stood in the air, his whole body turned into a ball of golden light, one by one round golden light balls, covering the area of Liang, carrying out carpet bombing. The ground was cracked open, and the entire G3 branch was in violent turmoil. Silence. The scene was quiet again. The smoke and dust billowed ahead, making it impossible to see the scene inside clearly. Karp focused his attention, looked at the billowing smoke in front of him, and said, "Is he dead? If you don't die, you'll be half crippled." Sengoku took a deep breath and said slowly. Having suffered a terrifying blow from so many of them, even Kaido of the Four Emperors would not feel better. However, if you want to kill Liang, it will not be so easy to answer. But the Warring States period would at least think that there is still a good chance of severely hurting Liang. Don't be careless. Karp's eyes narrowed and he said in a low voice, "I always feel that this battle will not end so easily. Besides, Liang is a very strange monster." "I know." Sengoku nodded. At this time. Call out. A bright light burst out of the smoke in an instant. The speed of this slash was too fast, which caught everyone by surprise. The slash passed through the side of the Warring States period, ripping through the corners of his clothes, but he himself couldn't react, and his face was shocked. Karp's eyes widened, and he was turning his head, screaming, "Leave." The words just fell. Puff. A bright red color was thrown into the air. Everyone was stunned, staring blankly at the scene in front of them. "I see." Kizaru, who was wearing a golden shirt all over, was directly penetrated by this slash on his left abdomen. The wound was about the size of a fist, and the blood inside was flowing, forming a blood hole, making his face gradually pale and bloodless. "Kazuna, how are you feeling?" Warring States hurried over and asked. Garp, on the other hand, was serious, staring at the ruins in front of him to prevent another sudden attack. "It's all right, ahem." Huang Yuan coughed and vomited blood, looking particularly embarrassed, and his voice was very weak. "Get him out of here." The Warring States immediately handed Kizaru to several lieutenant generals and ordered. Under this terrifying slash, Kizaru lost his ability to fight. The battle had just started for not half an hour. The combat power of a general was eliminated, which made the Warring States feel extremely heavy. After losing a general in combat power, it became more and more difficult to keep Liang. Chapter 105_Destroy the G3 branch. Please customize it. The smoke dissipated. Liang's figure appeared in the eyes of everyone. I saw that he was wearing black armor and was completely unscathed. The attack just now did not hit him at all and was completely dodged. Destroyed a yellow ape. Although he didn't kill him, it still made him lose his ability to fight. Next, there are 3 people left, and the rest are not very threatening at all. The corners of Liang's mouth moved slightly, and he smiled lightly. He looked forward with his eyes and saw the gloomy faces of Sengoku, Garp, and Akainu. For Kizaru's departure, it can be regarded as a heavy blow to the Navy headquarters. In this battle, without the reinforcements of Kizaru, and without a general, it will be even more difficult to compete with Liang. Although Warring States did not think that he would lose, it was not realistic to want to keep Liang. Kill. The whole body of Warring States flashed golden light, and it was slapped with a slap, and the shock wave enveloped Liang's position. Liang's eyes are quick and his hands are fast, holding the autumn water, and his armed color is domineering, and he collided with the shock wave of the Warring States period. Boom. A loud bang. Terrible power swept the audience, and the aftermath was shocked. Garp's fists filled with armed color, he stepped on the moon, and the speed was extremely fast. When he arrived in front of Liang, he punched 28. At this time, Liang was fighting against the Warring States in front of him. The sudden appearance of Garp made him have to be careful. His left hand was full of armed colors, condensed his fist, and collided with Garp's fist. Boom. Another terrifying aftermath struck everywhere. The ground cracked an obvious trace, like a spider web, cracked open. Liang was 1-2, and still did not fall into a disadvantage. Instead, he and Garp Sengoku were evenly matched. This terrifying strength is simply breathtaking. At the same time, Akainu seized the opportunity, the magma surged all over his body, and quickly attacked Liang, Ming Dog. A cloud of magma quickly enveloped the top of Liang's head. At this time, Liang kicked his feet and quickly took a few steps back. The shock wave of the Warring States hit the ground, piercing the floor through a huge gap. Garp's double punches hit the floor, cracking open layers of ground. The magma of Akainu also melted the ground, exposing the perforations, and the huge foundation was destroyed, and the sound of the sea rushing could be heard. It's really irrational to hit hard. Liang's eyes twinkled brightly, thinking to himself. Being besieged by these three terrifying enemies in an instant still made him almost a little difficult. Only by relying on terrifying speed can we gain an advantage. Immediately, Liang kicked his feet and wandered around at a terrifying speed. Call out, call out, call out. One after another fierce slashes swept over, and the ground was chopped open. Well. Garp punched out, blocking a slash from Liang. The Warring States used the shock wave to forcibly deflect Liang's slash and bombard the building behind. Boom. The buildings of the G3 branch kept collapsing. Under this terrifying battle, these sturdy buildings were still unable to resist the erosion of the aftermath. One after another, the sharp slashes cut the building in half, fell to the ground, and raised bursts of dust. The earth trembled, and the huge G3 branch had been completely destroyed. Through the perforated floor, the sound of the ocean current can still be vaguely heard. Chapter 105 breaking down the G3 branch. Please customize it. Through the perforated floor, the sound of the ocean current can still be vaguely heard. Click. The earth cracked open, and cracks continued to spread. The entire G3 branch is no longer the same. Front. Sengoku, Garp, and Akainu all had heavy expressions on their faces, seeing the buildings being continuously destroyed, but to no avail. They were able to fight Liang for so long, and even suppress Liang vaguely, which is already a very remarkable record. If they still want to keep these buildings, then they have to dispatch at least 3 times the power here. But even if the Navy headquarters came out in full force, it would not be able to have 3 times the power here. Twice is the limit. Fighting is impossible without destruction. As the G3 branch on the battlefield, it is even more impossible to retain its complete appearance. Fight again. Liang's eyes narrowed slightly, with a smile on his face, holding Chushui, and blasted away with a sharp slash. Boom. Garp smashed the slash away with a punch, his face expressionless, and the corners of his mouth moved slightly. Shave. He disappeared completely and appeared beside Liang. At the moment when Garp disappeared, Liang had already made a move, and his speed was faster than Garp. Boom. Garp's punch just hit the afterimage that Liang left on the spot. Too slow. Liang's figure appeared 5 meters away from Garp, and said slowly with a faint smile. Shockwave. Sengoku slowly raised his right hand, and a terrible shock wave swept the position where Li Ang was standing. But Li Ang's speed was too fast, and despite the constant attacks from Sengoku, Carp, and Akainu, he still failed to hit Li Ang. The Bartholomew Bears are also cooperating with the offense, but his offense is a little monotonous. As for Doflamingo and Empress Hancock, they could not wait to stand by and watch. Anyway, they had seen Li Ang's strength, and even if they participated, it would not help. Even Kazuna was instantly killed. Even if they participated in the war, they would only increase meaningless casualties. Igia, I don't want to be killed. Hancock's delicate and pretty face was a little scared. Seeing the battle at this level in front of her made her feel terrified. The shock from the aftermath made her a bit of a threat of death. If you get close, I'm afraid of being accidentally injured, then 823 is her death. The same thing, Li Ang, this monster, is really too strong. Looking at it this way, it is a fool's dream that the Navy headquarters wants to keep him today. In this way, cooperation can be done. The corner of Doflamingo's mouth twitched, looking at the battlefield ahead, thinking to himself. Working for the Navy headquarters. Do not make jokes. Originally, he became Chiwahai because of the power of Chiwahai, which could bring a lot of convenience to his business. Now, after seeing Li Ang, Doflamingo believes that if he can reach a cooperative relationship with Li Ang, even if he puts aside the position of Chiwahai, so what? It doesn't matter anymore. After today, Li Ang's reputation will be even louder. At that time, if the cooperation is reached, Doflamingo can use Li Ang's name, which is definitely much better than the so-called Chiwahai title. Chiwahai can't deter the four emperors. But Li Ang's name will definitely make the four emperors fear it. To be able to confront the Navy headquarters alone, who else besides Li Ang? Boom. Another huge noise. Li Ang slashed and destroyed the office of the G3 branch. The aftermath knocked down countless surrounding buildings and reduced them to ruins. The entire G3 branch no longer had the solemn feeling it used to be, and became a mess. Chapter 106-Pacifist. The waters outside the G3 branch. A group of pirates are paying close attention to every move ahead. Because the wall had been knocked down, the battlefield in the G3 branch could not escape their sight. At the same time, the image worms also illuminate the picture ahead and spread to the big screen of each island. Seeing the devastated, smoke-filled scene, everyone fell into silence. Li Ang, is it possible to fight with the Navy headquarters to this extent alone? My God, the top naval forces such as Marshal Warring States, Lieutenant General Garp, and Admiral Akainu were unable to kill Li Ang, or even seriously injure Li Ang. Furthermore, I also got on board with General Kizaru, who was seriously injured and was sent away from this battlefield. Even the G3 branch was beaten down, and the Navy headquarters, this time, ushered in a huge loss. Quote. The pirates were boiling, seeing that Li Ang still had no injuries on Sanchisen, which made them even more excited, and it was difficult to hide it on their faces. Li Ang, on behalf of the pirates. They naturally hoped that Li Ang would win, and rub the spirit of the Navy fiercely. But the scene of Kizaru being instantly killed was still unacceptable to them at the time. You know, this is one of the three generals, Kayaburu Borsellino. Killing these pirates is as simple as killing a chicken. It's that simple. It was hit hard by Li Ang, so it shouldn't be too scary. The remaining combat power of the Navy headquarters is obviously much weaker than at the beginning. A group of lieutenant generals simply do not have the ability to play. Once on the field, they will lead to a fatal blow. Therefore, they exist here just to send the wounded away. Cut. Li Ang slashed down with a knife, and slashed into the front of the Warring States in front of him. Warring States is also quick-witted, using the shock wave to shake off this slash. At the same time, he covered Li Ang's forehead with his left hand and shouted, "Shockwave." The shock wave quickly hit the land under Li Ang's feet in the form of air transmission. And Liang himself had already fled from where he was standing. Even Liang would be injured when he was attacked by this group of fierce people in front of him. It's too fast and has to be restrained. Sengoku thought calmly and said solemnly. His words were understood by everyone present. Liang's speed was the main reason why their attacks could not hit. In addition to the unfathomable swordsmanship, the speed was too fast, and their attacks were in vain. An attack that cannot hit the enemy, even if it destroys the power of the world, is meaningless. Come again. Akainu's eyes condensed, and the magma surging on his body gushed out. Big fire. ... From the G3 branch. A warship is gradually approaching. On the ship's board, you can see a man in a black suit with no expression on his face, his eyes looking at the sea in front of him, and he also saw the G3 branch. His name is Sarode, and his identity is a CP0 member directly under the world government. As for why he came here, then the answer can be drawn from the group of people behind him. Behind him stood a group of identical people. At first glance, they all looked like Bartholomew bears. There were 10 of them, and they all looked the same. It was impossible to tell who was who. Chapter 106-Pacifists. Behind him stood a group of identical people. At first glance, they all looked like Bartholomew bears. There were 10 of them, and they all looked the same. It was impossible to tell who was who. These people also have a unified title called pacifist. The pacifist who had just been developed, under the turmoil of Liang, entered the world stage ahead of schedule and appeared in the eyes of everyone. This can also be seen from the side. The world government attaches great importance to this matter. It is also very important to reverse the majesty of the naval headquarters and the power of the pacifists. These 10 pacifists are what the world government uses to deter many pirates. Although they may not be able to shake Liang, at least they can form some interference and are very reliable. My lord, there are still 2 kilometers. A soldier came and whispered. Sarode nodded. Go ahead at full speed, and be sure to arrive at the battlefield before the battle is over. This time, you must not let Liang leave. Otherwise, the people above will blame me, and I will have nothing to eat. Yes, my lord. After the soldiers left, they shouted, full speed ahead. The warship moved forward at full speed, heading for the G3 branch ahead. The sea was slashed and thrown to the sides. The arrival of this warship also aroused the awareness of many pirates, and they were moved. The navy is here again. This time, is it reinforcements? Look, people on the boat. My God, isn't this the navy's lackey, the Bartholomew? It's not right. Actually, there are 10. I'm going. 10 Bartholomew bears. What's going on? What's going on? Who can tell me what I'm seeing? The image bug captured the scene of the Bartholomew bear in front, which made countless people boil. 10 identical people are standing in the same picture, which is a bit shocking. A robot. Some pirates guessed. The secret weapon of the Navy headquarters, clones. Bartholomew, this guy, has become the object of research by the Navy headquarters. It's too tragic. But then again, the ruthless Bartholomew bears who used to be so ruthless would voluntarily give experimental equipment to the Navy headquarters. It's too cowardly. It's simply a coward. Just him, but also Chiwahai. It's too embarrassing, and shame on our pirates' faces. ... A group of pirates were a little angry, seeing the Bartholomew bear willingly degenerate into an experimental figure of the Navy headquarters, which made them feel even more uncomfortable. However, they were still very shocked. What kind of abilities and strengths will 10 identical Bartholomew bears have? Suddenly, a sense of curiosity emerged in everyone's heart. This batch of secret weapons of the Navy headquarters seems to be unusual. Can it bring a heavy blow to Liang? Nobody knows. But then, the results will come. This batch of reinforcements sent by the 1.7 Navy headquarters is very mysterious. The appearance is also indistinguishable from the Bartholomew bear. If the two are not related, they will never believe it. In the battlefield. Warring States raised his brows, looked at the warship coming from a distance, his pupils shrank, and said, "They have already been dispatched, the world government guys are really worried about us." The manufacture of the pacifists, as the admiral of the navy, is naturally clear. Carp said, "Not necessarily, according to the strength of this group of soft-footed shrimp. Even if there are 180 or 80, they can't help the monster Liang in front of him. Having said that, it's also the best moment to erect majesty." Warring States' tone became serious, and said, "Next, we have to do our best, and we can't have any reservations. Success or failure depends on this final collision." Chapter 107_Spike. Go ahead. Carp's face gradually became solemn, and he stepped forward to Liang's position. The Warring States' expression remained unchanged, and the whole body flashed golden light, like a big Buddha, with golden light shining with a terrifying oppressive force. The devil fruit of the phantom beast species is really extraordinary. Magma appeared all over Akainu's body, staring at Liang coldly, without any expression. The magma in his hands continued to emit steam. The magma fell to the ground, melted the floor and appeared perforations. Finally, warship still arrived next to the ruined wall of the G3 branch. Under the leadership of Sarod, 10 pacifists landed ashore at the same time. They are about to start this batch of power. I am afraid it will be quite strange. I don't know if Liang can handle it. This terrifying force is simply terrifying. Liang should be able to do it, not enough. If these 10 clones don't have some abilities, they must be fake. If they can participate in the war, it proves that their strength is quite strong. Quote. Countless pirates watched the changes on the battlefield. The image worm also conveyed this picture to the big screen of each island. In the battlefield, faced with the strong attack of Sengoku, Carp, and Akainu, Liang was still somewhat unwilling from 28. Holding Chushui, his armed colors spread, forcing the 3 back and taking a few steps back. At the same time, he moved his eyes and saw 10 pacifists who were gradually logging in. Warring States, you are still so unreliable. Sarod sneered, looked at the Warring States, and whispered. Sarod, you bastard. Warring States raised his brows. Obviously, his friendship with CP0 member Sarod was not very good. The people above, let me participate in this battle. This battle can only be won, not defeated. And this group of pacifists is used to kill Liang. Sarod's face was calm and he said calmly. Is that all? Carp sneered, just these pacifists who want to kill Liang. Did you get your head caught in the door? Even if your IQ is not complete, you can't make such a joke. Well. Sarod's face became gloomy, and he said coldly, let's see. If my people kill Liang, then your naval headquarters will be really useless. Although I dislike you, I still have to remind you. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices, your people can't kill Liang. The Warring States said in a low tone and bluntly. Go. Without looking back, Sarod issued an order to the 10 pacifists, pointing to Liang in front, and ordered, kill him for me, at all costs. The order has just been given. The 10 pacifists took action and approached Liang in front step by step. And Sengoku, Garp, Akainu also pulled out of the battlefield. Akainu frowned. Are they here to die? Then let these arrogant CP0s understand how terrible the enemy we are facing is. And let his rotten mouth stop for a while. Carp sneered and said directly. Seeing Sarod's face with his nostrils upturned, he felt very unhappy. Bartholomew Bears. The female Emperor Hancock's beautiful eyes were a little suspicious, and then she looked at the bear in Chihuahua next to her, and then at the 10 pacifists in front of her. She always felt that there must be a connection between the two. Even Doflamingo was a little surprised. Looking at the Bartholomew bear beside him, he asked, are you volunteering to study for scientists at the Navy headquarters? It's just too surprising. It's a shame that you were once called for that, Tyrant Bear. This is something he doesn't understand. If it was himself, he would definitely not have done such a researched behavior. It was more painful than killing him. Warring states, you are optimistic. Li Ang, it's not a problem. By the way, I almost forgot, you don't know the true power of pacifists. Next, keep your dog eyes wide and watch carefully. With a confident smile on Sarod's face, Lang Lang smiled. Chapter 107_Sekel. With a confident smile on Sarod's face, Lang Lang smiled. I don't know whether to live or die. Akainu's face was gloomy and he said in a low voice. Front. Li Ang held Chushui and looked at the pacifists who were approaching step by step, and he was also a little surprised. Unexpectedly, pacifists have come to the world stage so quickly. But isn't it too self-confident to send these rubble against me? Li Ang twisted his neck and said lightly. He does not think that these pacifists have the ability to kill him. Even if it is difficult to even hurt his clothes. The ultimate armament color spreads domineeringly, shrouded in the body, forming a black hard armor, at first glance, indestructible, can block many effective attacks. Catch the target and issue an attack order. Attack. Quote. The pacifist made a mechanized voice, and his eyes were fixed on Li Ang, and a golden light appeared at the corner of his mouth, like the laser of a kiwi. Call out, call out, call out. The golden rays of light, dazzling, slammed into Li Ang's position rapidly, piercing the air, and brought a terrifying pressure. This is Kazaru's laser. Many pirates were a little shocked. They stared intently at the battlefield ahead, their throats dry. At this time, Li Ang was expressionless, shook his head and chuckled, but do you know that even the laser launched by Huang Yuan himself can't help me? Not to mention, it's you pirates. Boom. 10 laser beams, which successfully hit Li Ang's domineering armed arrogance, brought a violent tremor. The whole floor vibrated, sending up smoke and dust, blocking people's view. What's the result? Everyone looked at the smoke ahead in unison. 357. Gradually. After the smoke gradually dissipated. The scene inside is also presented in the eyes of everyone. Li Ang, who was covered with a layer of black armed armor, was unscathed and his face was calm, even with a smile that was not a smile. At the same time, his whole person disappeared from everyone's sight. For a moment. Next to the pacifist, Li Ang's figure appeared, holding the black knife Chu Shui, and slashed it down. Puff. A pacifist was directly cut in half, revealing many mechanical parts inside, and, flashing fire, was directly destroyed beyond human appearance. Spike. A pacifist, killed by Li Ang with one blow. Too weak. Li Ang shook his head and turned to look at the pacifist who was beside him with a golden glow, exuding a terrifying aura. The Overlord is domineering and shrouded. Click. The next scene is horrifying. On the body of the pacifist, there were actually obvious cracks. Under the shock of Li Ang's Overlord, the impact was very terrifying. With a thump, another pacifist fell to the ground, as if, directly impacted by Li Ang's domineering arrogance, all the parts in his body were damaged, and he no longer had the ability to move. It was blazing all over, and there was a crackling sound from the parts, and it was completely damaged. Chapter 108_CP0, please customize it. In an instant, the two pacifists were completely destroyed by Li Ang. What is terrifying is that the second pacifist was damaged. Li Ang didn't do anything at all, but used the strongest tyrannical arrogance to shock and crack the parts in the pacifist's body. As a result, pacifists are no longer capable of action. This CP0 member Sarod, who was standing next to the Warring States period, was stunned, staring at Li Ang in front of him, his lips trembling, and panic gradually appeared in his eyes. Sarod, put away your rubbish iron, it won't do anything to Li Ang, your rubbish iron. I have already reminded you of this, but unfortunately, you didn't listen to it. Quote. Sengoku glanced at Sarod, sneered, and said. It's impossible. Sarod went crazy, tore his hair, His eyes were red, and he lost his voice. It shouldn't be. How could he kill the pacifist in an instant? How could anyone in this sea be able to do it? Whoever says it's impossible, all of us here can do it. Akainu said lightly, without any emotional fluctuations in his voice. Take a look now. Feelings, Sarod is a frog at the bottom of the well. Also a loss that he is a member of CP0, and he doesn't even have this knowledge. How did he become a CP0? This made Akainu very puzzled and had to say a few words. If you don't want them all destroyed, let them retreat now. Karp's face changed and he said in a low voice. No, it won't. Sarod looked at the pacifists in front of him with hope, shook his head and said, impossible, he can't deal with so many pacifists alone. At this time. Call out. A sharp slash smashed the ground to pieces. A pacifist was cut in two again, revealing countless damaged parts in the body, and no longer has any ability to act. The third pacifist was completely destroyed at the hands of Liang. Then, the fourth pacifist. Fifth. Each and every pacifist, in front of Liang, is like a child, standing in place, unable to reflect Liang's terrifying speed at all. Therefore, they can only be reduced to being attacked. The so-called science has no threatening power in the face of a terrifying monster like Liang. Not to mention, today's pacifists are only the products of the initial stage, and have not been completely perfected. This was only discovered when Liang killed the fifth pacifist. This group of pacifists was only created at the beginning. The perfect period is far from perfect. Do you dare to take out such a product? Liang shook his head and chuckled. Immediately, the knife fell, and the eighth pacifist died under his knife. Not far away. Of CP0, was already startled by Liang's terrifying strength, unable to move, his lips trembling. How can he be so strong? While he couldn't react, Liang moved a little, and the ninth pacifist died. In a blink of an eye. 10 domineering pacifists have ushered in a fatal blow, and they can't die any longer. Today, one pacifist remains on the battlefield, still unscathed. But it is not far from death. Find a target, find a target. In the end, this pacifist still kept scanning Liang's direction. Chapter 108 _ the crap flow of CP0, please customize it. In the end, this pacifist still kept scanning Liang's direction. But at this time, Liang was already standing behind it. His face was calm, holding a black knife in autumn water, covered with a layer of armed domineering, directly piercing the belly of this pacifist. There was no blood coming out, it was just a robot. 10 pacifists, all killed. This blow made Sarod stunned, unable to speak, his throat was dry, and he looked at Liang with fear, as if he was looking at a demon-like monster. Anyone from the world government? Liang narrowed his eyes slightly and glanced at Sarod. This extra person was not low-level, which surprised him. But who this man was, he himself had no idea. This character does not appear to have appeared in the original novel. But forget it, anyway, he is also a dying person. Knowing too much, it is meaningless. Liang thought so in his heart. The corner of his mouth raised an arc. Holding Chushui, he chopped down with a knife. Call out. A sharp slash, cut through the air, and arrived in front of Sarod, frightened him to urinate and gushed out. His entire face was full of fear, and he couldn't escape if he wanted to. At this critical moment. It was the Warring States period, so he naturally couldn't allow the members of CP0 to die in front of him, but he himself could not be saved. He slowly stretched out his hand and used the shock wave to block and offset Liang's slash. Now, do you understand? Akainu appeared beside Sarod and said. This. Sarod was no longer arrogant, his lips trembled, and he was so frightened that he seemed to be sluggish and his whole body trembled. It was hard to hide, the sense of fear just now enveloped the whole body. Almost, he was going to die. In the face of death, there is no need to say anything about urinary incontinence. Diaresis, get out of here and tell the people above. We are fighting hard, and if we cannot defeat the enemy, we have done our best. Sengoku glanced at Sarode, took a deep breath, and said, I see. Sarode kept himself safe like a little daughter-in-law, nodded and said, having personally experienced Li Yang's terrifying strength, he naturally knew how expensive it would be to kill such a terrifying enemy. Hearing Sarode's words, Sengoku was slightly relieved, and looked at Li Yang's position solemnly. On the world government side, with Sarode stabilizing, at least, the consequences will not be too serious. Although Sarode's strength is not strong, his role is not small, and he can still say a few good words in the eyes of the world government. Good money. This effect is enough. Next, it depends on whether they can kill Li Yang, or severely damage Li Yang for arrest. Cap. Sengoku looked at Garp and said, go on. Garp nodded, bursting out of rapid speed, and arrived at Li Yang's side. The speed of the warring states was not slow at all, and the shock wave bombarded away. Big Spitfire. The magma appeared in Akainu's hands, fell from a high altitude, and smashed to the ground, causing the earth to shake, and the foundation was destroyed in a mess under their attack. From start to finish, Li Yangdu's face was calm. While avoiding Garp Sengoku's attack, he paid attention to Akainu's actions. At the same time, Yu Guang was also looking at the area of this G3 branch. He was thinking, and it was time to fulfill the rhetoric that he had put down. Destroy the G3 branch, right now. Chapter 109-Destroy the fortress at once. Please customize it. Pay close attention and don't give him the chance to do it. Warring State's eyes flickered, and he seemed to have sensed Li Yang's intentions, so he quickly reminded him. I know. Garp blasted out with his fists, forcing Li Yang to retreat. Then, the shock wave of the warring states fell from the sky and fell on Li Yang. This terrifying impact still hit Li Yang, which brought a lot of influence to him, and the pressure of the whole body gradually rose. Akainu's fire breathing fell from the sky. It's just that Li Yang's speed is what worries the warring states and others the most. Before the Great Spitfire arrived, Li Yang disappeared in place. The fire hit the ground, and the ground shook. A piece of stone was thrown into the air, and then fell to the ground. With the temperature of the magma, it melted into the sea and emitted white smoke and heat. I won't play with you anymore. Corners of Li Yang's mouth twitched slightly, and he smiled lightly. The strength of your Navy headquarters doesn't seem to be that great. If that's the case, then I will implement the goals I just started. Don't think about it. Warring State's pupils shrank and said coldly. Just see if you can stop me. Li Yang chuckled lightly, took a few steps back, and distanced himself from the warring states and others. Seeing that a long-range battle was about to take place, Garp secretly thought that it was not good, and wanted to get closer to Li Yang at the fastest speed. But Li Yang 713 had already noticed it, and slashed sharply one after another. Forced to face Garp, he had to grit his teeth, his fists covered with armed colors, and after blocking the slash, he was still forced back to the place by this force. Not easy to get close. Garp took a deep breath, and there was a trace of confusion between his breaths, said. Shockwave. The whole body of warring states flashed golden light, and a shock wave swept Li Yang's position. However, Li Yang kicked his feet, jumped up, and stood high in the sky. At the same time, a voice came out of his head. At this moment, a voice appeared in Li Yang's head. Congratulations to the host, open the modifier, month step plus 999,999. Open black lens bracket comprehend the smooth progress close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough novice close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough entry close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough proficiency close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough master close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket breakthrough master close black lens bracket. Moon step. Li Yang was stunned for a moment, and then a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. This is good, he already has the ability to stay in the air, so that if the people below want to catch him, it will be even more taboo. He controlled the moon step, and coupled with his extreme speed, it made Warring States and others even more headaches. But this time, Siba Liang mastered the matter of EPUB, but Warring States and others were unaware of it. When they saw Liang appearing above the sky, they thought that the opportunity was coming, and they quickly shouted, "He is in the air now and can't move anymore. Quickly, take this opportunity to give him a thunderous blow." Meteor volcano. Akainu burst out with all his strength, and the ability of Rockberry was pushed to the extreme. This move is the most terrifying move he currently has. Garp's fists cover the armed color, and his strongest is this fist. And the Warring States period is more obvious, the golden light of the whole body is more and more dazzling, the strongest shock wave is brewing, his eyes are fixed on Liang in the air, and he shouted, "Go! Shave, Moonstep!" Garp disappeared completely and appeared in front of Liang with a smile on his mouth. "Young man, you are still too young. In the air, you don't have the ability to move." Shockwave. Chapter 109-Destroy the fortress once, please customize it. Shockwave. The Warring States period appeared, and a terrifying shock wave enveloped Liang. At the same time, in the sky, a rush of magma landed, and the terrifying coercion made it hard to guard against. And Garp can use the moon step to keep walking in the air, but in their opinion, Liang does not have this ability. Unless, Liang has devil fruit. But obviously, there is no such possibility. However, the next scene shocked them. Moonstep. Coincidentally, I just learned it. Liang smiled, looked at Garp, and said. I saw that he stepped on the air and disappeared from Garp's sight in a blink of an eye. The speed was as terrifying as ever, making it impossible for people to capture his trajectory. How is it possible? Garp's eyes widened infinitely, his lips moved slightly, full of horror. The moon step of the Navy's sixth form is a secret that the Navy does not pass on. So, how did Leon learn? Even the Warring States were startled, the attack that had just been brewed dissipated, and he stared blankly at Liang who was constantly jumping like a bird in the air. His mood instantly collapsed. Akainu's throat was dry, and he said, I always feel that he still has his trump cards that he hasn't played yet. I said, I'm going to destroy anything, and no one can stop me. Even your naval headquarters can't stop me. Liang's voice came out loud, with his indomitable confidence. He is confident that no one in front of him can protect what he wants to destroy. G3 branch in front of me. If he wants to destroy this place, he can destroy it. Even Marin Fando, Liang has this absolute confidence. Look carefully, the next picture. This picture is rare. Your naval headquarters can't stop me. Even if you double your strength, it can't stop me from destroying the G3 branch. Liang laughed loudly, holding the black knife Chushui, and swiftly chopped it down. At the same time, a fierce record quickly impacted the position in front. Call out. The dazzling slash, the light is extremely dazzling, like a round of scorching sun on the horizon. Not good. The face of the Warring States changed dramatically, and he immediately activated the shock wave, trying to deflect this slash. It's a pity that while he was making his move, one after another fierce slashes appeared beside him, so he had to focus his eyes on himself, and use the shock wave to block the slashes in front of him. But out of the corner of his eye, he did see it. Liang's shocking knife fell from the sky and bombarded the foundation of the G3 branch fortress. Garp, Akainu and the others couldn't react at all, they could only watch the sharp slashes hit the G3 branch that they have been guarding. Damn. Akainu gritted his teeth, his face full of anger, but he was powerless to return to the sky. Call out. The slashing slash successfully reached the ground, and brought unprecedented terrifying power to the G3 branch, hitting the ground, and the huge ground exploded. Layers of floors were cracked with countless cracks and shattered. Entire G3 branch felt it. At this moment, the shock brought by the branch fortress was the first time in their history that they felt such a strong earthquake. Boom! A loud bang. The branch fortress was completely penetrated from the middle, and it was divided into two parts. Together with the sea surface of the fortress, it was penetrated by the aftermath of this slash, and waves of sea water were raised, which were thrown into the sky dozens of meters above the sky, and then fell. The sea scatters all over the sky and returns to the sea again. In the sky, you can vaguely see a rainbow, vaguely appearing in people's sight. Chapter 110 _ I keep my word. The huge G3 branch fortress. Under Liang's attack, it turned into two halves. Click. The cracks are obvious, and the two halves of the fortress, along with the flow of seawater, are getting farther and farther apart. From it, you can see that the seawater is floating in their sight. Countless Marines gradually came to their senses, staring blankly at the death of the branch that was cut in two. The whole person couldn't believe it, his lips trembled, and he was speechless for a while. Branch, destroyed. The G3 branch is still destroyed. Even with the arrival of the Sengoku Marshal and Lieutenant General Garp, can they still not change this fact? It's over, shouldn't we? Are we going to die here? The Navy was terrified, and they watched helplessly as they were in a branch fortress for more than 10 years, and the scene of being cut in two really impacted their inner ability to bear. And the source of all this is Liang. At this time, Liang stood high in the sky, expressionless, looking at the branch that was cut in half. He showed a satisfied smile, and chuckled. Finally, the goal of this time has been completed. Liang, you, damn, die. Warring States was full of anger, burning with fire, staring at Liang high in the sky, shouting loudly. Garp and Akainu also looked at Liang, their faces extremely gloomy. Seeing that Liang destroyed the G3 branch, and they had nothing to do, it was too embarrassing for the Navy headquarters. The other side. Sea area not far from the branch. A group of pirates were silent, the corners of their mouths moved slightly, and the voice was lost. Liang, he did it. He really did it, alone, and destroyed the G3 branch, in front of people like Sengoku, Garp, and Akainu. No less. Quote. Moreover, the most terrifying thing is that the battle has hit now, and he is alone, and there is basically no major injury on his body. My God, this monster is so desperate. In the future, there will be a piece of news in the sea. I would rather provoke the Navy headquarters than Liang. Because Liang is more frightening than the Navy headquarters. Quote. The pirates were excited, and they all looked at the Navy branch that was divided into two. The general manager was not very real. However, the fact was in front of them, and they had to believe it. Liang did exactly that, destroying the G3 branch. Moreover, in front of the terrifying powerhouses such as Sengoku, Garp, and Akainu, they still fulfilled the words they put down as before. The other half of the branch fortress. Brother Doflamming swallowed his saliva, took off his sunglasses, and looked at this picture. The corners of his mouth moved slightly. Hey, it's true. Not only is he able to get out of his body, he also looks at it this way. Can really destroy the G3 branch. Quote. This man is too strong. I'm afraid, Kaido, in front of Liang, is nothing more than that. It seems that my cooperation with him is more urgent. This kind of terrifying monster, if we can cooperate, my business will soon spread over the whole sea area, even the 4 emperors, it will be nothing. Doflamingo was excited, his eyes twinkling. Seeing Liang's terrifying strength, his desire to cooperate with the other party became stronger. Whoa! Seawater flows. The female Emperor Hancock is standing on the floor. She is tall, and wherever she stands, she is the focus that cannot be ignored. Her beautiful and delicate face makes people intoxicated. Coupled with the devil's graceful figure, it makes countless men crazy. Now, Hancock's beautiful eyes stayed on Liang's body, his red lips slightly parted. This man, seems to be outrageously powerful. Even under the obstruction of so many forces from the Navy headquarters, he still did what he said at the beginning. Have to admit. Chapter 110 _ I have my word, please customize it. Have to admit. Facing Liang, even Hancock's icy heart was shaken. Thought here. Hancock's pretty face became a little crimson, like a ripe peach, making people want to take a bite. There is nothing more intoxicating than this. Immediately, Hancock hurriedly shook his smooth black hair to calm down. However, every time she saw Liang's figure, she couldn't help thinking about it and fell into her own world. The more she thought about it, the more shy her own mood became, and the more ruddy her face became. At this moment, Liang gradually landed from the air and stood on the floor of the other half of the branch. Facing the Sengoku, Carp, Akainu and others in front, he smiled and said, "You guys, you can't stop me." "You!" Akainu shouted with anger on his face. "Originally, I didn't intend to be an enemy of your Navy headquarters. However, since you have already attacked me, I can't be at your mercy. If I destroy 2 branches, even if I vent my inner anger. Of course, if you still want to fight with me next, I will accompany you at any time. However, next time, I will not fight against the branch. Instead, I will arrive directly at Marin Vando. I think you'll have a clear idea of what this means." Liang smiled and talked with the warring states in front of him. "It can't be said to be a talk, but a threat. I admit that plotting against you is the biggest mistake of my life. But do you think the Navy will let you go after you have done so many sinful things?" Warring States' face gloomy, shouted. "Will the Navy headquarters let me go? This point is irrelevant. On the contrary, you should think about whether I want to let you free Navy headquarters now." Liang smiled lightly and said bluntly, "If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, I don't mind the next step with Marin Vando. Even destroying the Holy Land Mary Joa depends on my mood." "You dare!" Warring States quickly reprimanded. "Guess if I dare." Liang smiled, calm and natural. He didn't feel any guilt for destroying the G3 branch. Instead, he felt relieved. Suddenly, the warring states fell into silence. Liang's strength is terrifying. Even Sengoku himself shuddered at the thought of Liang's action on the Holy Land Mary Joa. This is a monster that does not play cards according to the routine. At that time, who else in this world can stop Liang? This time, their Navy headquarters almost came out, and they couldn't help Liang. Not to mention others. However, this guy Liang actually dared to let the Navy headquarters give him a satisfactory answer. This made warring states even more angry, but he did not dare to act rashly. After a battle, everyone knows everyone's strength level. Forgot to tell you. Liang's face changed. Lang smiled and said, "I said before, destroy the G3 branch. Now I will destroy the G3 branch, and I will not break my promise. I, Liang, keep my word." Chapter 111 _ One person overpowers the Navy. Silence. Sengoku, Garp, and Akainu all fell silent. "Are you angry?" "Naturally angry." Seeing that Liang destroyed the G3 branch, they were helpless, and the anger in their hearts was about to explode, making them on the verge of collapse. But what's the use of anger? In the face of Liang's terrifying strength, anger is just something that disturbs their mentality, and it is completely meaningless, let alone scoring their strength. Especially when Liang said this, warring states and others were about to fight again. But they dare not act rashly. At present, Liang has not attacked anymore, just cut off the G3 branch in 2, and there are not many people who died, so they have no reason to continue. Once Liang is angered, I am afraid that the tens of thousands of navies in the G3 branch will not be spared the fate of death today. This is what they do not want to see. 240 inches. Liang's words. It made many pirates not far away to hear vaguely. How arrogant this is. G3 branches destroyed, he still dares to stand in front of the warring states and threaten to keep his word. Moreover, It also made warring states and others dare not act rashly. In this lifetime, if you can experience this feeling, you will die without regrets in your life. Li Ang, the world's greatest swordsman. Even, he has surpassed the 4 emperors and can still destroy the G3 branch in the face of this terrible power. Even any of the 4 emperors can't do it. Li Ang is too domineering. From now on, there will be a terrifying monster above the 4 emperors in this sea. Quote. In addition to pirates, image bugs also convey this image to every island. The G3 branch was eventually destroyed. This result shocked many people. The name of Li Ang swept every corner of the world. Even after destroying the branch, everyone still saw the scene where warring states, Garp and others did not dare to do anything to Li Ang. Simply, with one's own strength, the navy could not breathe. Throughout the years, people who can do this are unheard of. Alone, the navy had to surrender. This is the first time in history. Not far away. Doflamingo is more eager to cooperate with Li Ang. As long as we cooperate with Li Ang, we can ensure smooth business. At that time, even if he gave up the title of Chiwahai, it would not bring him any loss. The word Li Ang represents supreme authority. The 4 emperors did not dare to act rashly with absolute authority. What a domineering man, Aijia, seems to be about to be moved. Empress Hancock covered her delicate face, showing a shy look. She, who is as cold as an empress, actually shows the attitude of such a little daughter, which is too unbelievable. At this moment, Sengoku, Karp, and Akainu looked at Li Ang, speechless for a while, wanting to speak, but not knowing what to say. As for whether to fight, this idea has been removed by them. Li Ang's strength is too strong, so they dare not act rashly. If they continue to fight, more people will die, and they are not confident to keep Li Ang. Such a fight is pointless. Okay, then, have you guys figured out how to deal with the current situation? I have never done anything abhorrent, and the bounty has already reached 1 billion bergs. Don't think about it, cancel my bounty list. Chapter 111-1 Person to suppress the navy. Okay, then, have you guys figured out how to deal with the current situation? I have never done anything abhorrent, and the bounty has already reached 1 billion bergs. Don't think about it, cancel my bounty list. Li Ang looked at the warring states period with a smile and said. Now, he occupies the absolute initiative. He said that the conditions he put forward could not tolerate the slightest rejection from the warring states. Reject. Then start the war. Anyway, he can attack Marin Vando or even the Holy Land Marijoa at any time, and he doesn't have to worry about other problems at all. And the warring states did not dare to fight against Li Ang. This kind of unconcerned person, and his strength is so terrifying, is what troubles him the most. Li Ang wouldn't care about the movements of the Navy headquarters at all. As long as the Navy headquarters had a slightly weaker defense, he would suddenly attack. I'm afraid that half of Marin Vando would be wiped out. The Navy headquarters can no longer withstand such a heavy blow. Furthermore, no one knows whether Li Ang's attack was done once or several times. If they come to visit the naval headquarters from time to time, their losses will only be more serious. At present, the warring states period must deal with the current problems with Li Ang. If you can turn an enemy into a friend, it is better to turn an enemy into a friend. No one wants a monster like Li Ang to be an enemy. Although, the lives of the Navy who died at the hands of Li Ang were no less than a few thousand people. However, Li Ang's strength still forced them to choose reconciliation, which was based on absolute strength, and what happened? There is only one reason. Li Ang's strength is too terrifying. It was so terrifying that Ling warring states and others had to resist the urge in their hearts and choose to reconcile when facing Li Ang, who had hands covered with the blood of the Navy. Just one person can overwhelm the entire Navy. This kind of thing is unprecedented. At least, the warring states have lived for so many years and have never experienced such absurd things. It's just that it happened in front of his eyes at this moment, so he had to accept it. Because, there has never been an enemy as terrifying as Li Yang's strength. Even Roger One Piece, Edward Newgate the Whitebeard, their strength is not as good as Li Yang in front of him. In particular, Li Yang's fields of expertise are too broad. Just a single speed, you can play them round and round. How do you want to solve it? Sengoku took a deep breath and asked with difficulty. This sentence means that the Warring States period compromised with Li Yang. What happened today is really shocking. I am afraid that it will soon sweep the whole sea. Li Yang used his own power to suppress the matter of the Navy headquarters, which I believe will make countless people boil. Even the 4 emperors have to weigh their own strength. When he said these words, Warring States could already expect that in the next 2, he would be severely criticized by many things. A lot of news on the sea will definitely spread. 5.8 people in the world government will definitely reprimand the Warring States, and even remove him from the position of marshal. However, this is not something that Sengoku alone can decide. If the world government is dissatisfied, then let them collide with Li Yang, and they will naturally understand why he chose to compromise with Li Yang. There is only one reason: Li Yang, too strong. In the face of such a powerful monster, he must be submissive. Although he is a marshal and represents the entire naval headquarters, it is precisely because of this that he must take into account the safety of his group of people. No one can stop Li Yang from destroying the naval headquarters. If he doesn't compromise, more people will die in the next battle. On the other hand, Li Yang was still unscathed. The cost of such a unilateral loss is not something that the Warring States can afford. Therefore, he would rather choose to compromise with Li Yang and let himself bear a lot of criticism. Chapter 112 Navy uniforms are soft. First, revoke my bounty list first. Although I don't think anyone can kill me, it's still inconvenient to have a bounty list here. Li Yang showed a smile and said idly after seeing the soft clothes of the Warring States period. Since the Warring States period has softened on behalf of the Navy headquarters, Li Yang can't continue to hold on to the opponent. When the time is right, reconciliation is still a good ending. I'm not one to be overpowering. Li Yang thought so in his heart, and smiled even more, waiting for the answer from the Warring States period. At this time, Garp's face was full of anger, and he felt aggrieved in his heart, but he also understood that the Warring States period must not be submissive. Li Yang's strength is too strong. It is not that they can keep each other together. If they can keep it, they have already hit Li Yang hard just now, and the next thing will not happen. Too bad they can't keep it. There is no other reason. Li Yang's strength is too strong. Several times stronger than that in his heyday. I agree to this condition. Sengoku gritted his teeth and nodded heavily. Eliminating the bounty list is not a big deal. As a marshal, he still has this ability. However, listening to Li Yang's words, it seems that there is more than one condition, and this is what worries the Warring States. If Li Yang made some excessive demands, he would be in a dilemma. Marshal. Akainu glanced at Sengoku. His mood was extremely heavy and depressed. This is the Navy headquarters, the first time to compromise with people. Moreover, it is still a compromise with one person. The impact of this on the headquarters of the Navy is quite obvious. Next, I am afraid that the news will immediately sweep the sea, and at that time, it will cause turmoil in the sea, and countless pirates will become more rampant. Thought here. Akainu wanted to fight with Li Yang again, but he understood that he could not fight with Li Yang. If the talks collapse this time, Li Yang's threat would be even greater than before. He will not attack the branch, but directly attack Marine Fando. With Li Yang's terrifying speed, he could do it all. He suddenly appeared outside Marine Fando, and then urged a slash, and left again after the attack. Over and over again, Marine Fando is only afraid that it will be constantly destroyed. Even the Holy Land Mary Joa, no one can stop Li Yang's pace. This existence has threatened the world government. The second condition is also very simple. The Navy headquarters, publicly published in the newspapers, said that I am not a pirate, I am just an ordinary civilian. Originally, I'm not a pirate, it's just that you forcibly put it on top of my head. Li Ang's face was calm, and he said lightly. His original identity is a pirate, but he is not a pirate. He didn't want to be a so-called pirate either. Anyway, he had no interest in that so-called treasure, and he didn't want to be a pirate king. Now, he has done things that even One Piece can't do, hasn't he? Can One Piece pressure the Navy headquarters to bow their heads? Impossible. When they encounter the Navy, they still have to take a detour to avoid a collision with the Navy. But Li Ang can do this alone, which is something that even One Piece can't do, but Li Ang did it. So, how can One Piece attract Li Ang? Strength, wealth. Li Ang has all these, and even said that he can get it at his fingertips, and he doesn't need to spend too much effort, someone will send him countless treasures. As for strength, Chapter 112-Navy Uniform Soft. As for strength, will Li Ang, who has modifiers, still worry about the improvement of his strength? He is getting stronger every day, and he is getting stronger by leaps and bounds. Who would have thought that a month ago, Li Ang was just an ordinary pirate prisoner? But the modifier gave Li Ang a terrifying power, making him a terrifying existence above the four emperors. Alone, the Navy couldn't even lift his head. No problem. Warring states nodded in agreement. Even he himself did not expect that Li Ang was not a pirate. At this time, there is no need for Li Ang to lie. Now the warring states period is very aggrieved. If he had known that Li Ang was not a pirate, and he didn't want to fight for the so-called One Piece, he would not have plotted against Li Ang. In this way, the following things will not happen. But who would have thought of this? Even if the warring states is full of regrets now, it is of no avail. But fortunately, the Navy headquarters, bowing to a person who is not a pirate is better than bowing to a pirate. This piece of news made Sengoku's mood change slightly. Anything else? Sengoku took a deep breath and continued to ask. The naval headquarters surrendered, which was a nail in the coffin and could not be changed. He didn't want to collide with Li Ang again, which would bring greater losses. The Navy headquarters cannot bear such losses one after another. Only reconciliation is the most correct way for the Navy headquarters. Whether the world government agrees or not, Sengoku himself believes that he himself must make this reconciliation move. If the world government is not satisfied, let them kill Li Ang. Of course, they can do it. If there are other things, there will be none, just the above 2 points. Li Ang thought for a moment and shook his head. His main purpose was to make the Navy head soft on him. As for the so-called requirements and conditions, they were just pretending, and they didn't make much sense at all. Okay, on behalf of the Navy headquarters, I agree to these 2 conditions. Warring states nodded with difficulty and agreed. 8:20, the Navy headquarters has officially bowed its head to Li Ang. A piece of news that moves the world is gradually being passed from here to every corner of the world. Then I will also give you a satisfactory promise. From now on, as long as the Navy does not provoke me, I will not do anything to the Navy. You should be satisfied with this. Li Ang showed a smile and said slowly. As the saying goes, courtesy exchanges. Since the warring states period agreed to 2 conditions, Li Ang had to return the gift. Nature. Warring states exhaled heavily, but his face couldn't recover. It was the first time that the Navy headquarters bowed his head, and he was still under a lot of pressure. However, this is the only way for him. There is no other way to ease the relationship with Li Ang. If there is no reconciliation, Li Ang will attack the Navy one after another, which is not what the warring states want to see. But what made him relax a little was Li Ang's identity. As long as it's not a pirate, that's enough. Li Ang is not a pirate, and their naval headquarters is not bowing to the pirates, but bowing to Li Ang alone. In this way, when the Navy catches pirates, it will not lose their fighting spirit. In general, the news that Li Ang is not a pirate is also very important, and it is very critical to the Navy headquarters. Chapter 113_closing. Don't worry, I won't do anything to the Navy again. If you can fulfill your promise and don't take the initiative to provoke me, I won't trouble you either. The corners of Li Ang's mouth were slightly upturned. He glanced at the warring states and the others, and smiled lightly. In his opinion, it is not very meaningful to start hands with the Navy headquarters. In this world, it would be better to have a good talk with Corona about life ideals. Wouldn't this be more interesting? Of course. If the Navy headquarters took the initiative to provoke him, he would naturally not show mercy. This time as an example. If the Warring States period had not calculated Li Ang would not have taken action against the naval branch. All of this is self-inflicted by the Warring States period, and it can be understood in this way. We must keep our promises, Sengoku said in a heavy tone. He had already made up his mind to return to the naval headquarters and deal with Li Ang's conditions as soon as possible. In addition, he warned the personnel under his command that anyone who encounters Li Ang must not be easily provoked. The naval headquarters could not bear Li Ang's second attack. The Holy Land Mary Joa was also unable to resist Li Ang's attack. Even the 5 old stars do not have the strength to stop Li Ang. Even if it is blocked, Li Ang will visit again next time. Who can be confident and keep Li Ang? No. In this sea, no one can keep Li Ang. As a result, the Warring States had to surrender. Under the oppression brought by Li Ang, the Warring States period could only choose to reconcile with Li Ang. That's it, that's it. Li Ang turned around, waved his hand, and left calmly. I originally didn't want to do it. But why? Who told you to plot against me? His words gradually faded away. Leaving behind Sengoku, Carp, and Akainu, their faces were full of grievance and helplessness. Looking at the back of Li Ang's departure, they couldn't even think of killing each other in silence. They wouldn't think that Li Ang would show his back unsuspectingly to attack them. This reconciliation has been reached. This peace cannot be easily broken. What surprised the Warring States period was that Li Ang was not a pirate from beginning to end. Why does the opponent appear in the advanced city? This thing is a mystery. Fortunately, Li Ang did not show such terrifying strength when he was advancing the city. Otherwise, Magellan would have been killed by Li Ang on the spot. Not to mention Magellan, even if he and Garp met Li Ang alone, they would only have a chance to escape. As for the fight, this idea basically does not exist in their hearts. After today's events, they also have a deeper understanding of Li Ang. However, what made the Warring States feel palpitations was that he always believed that Li Ang did not seem to have shown his greatest trump card. This was what frightened him. If Li Ang exposes his cards, what terrible disaster will it bring? Hopefully, there won't be that moment. Warring States whispered to himself, shaking his head helplessly and sighing. Unexpectedly, this time is a complete defeat. Carp waved his hand helplessly, his face full of suffocation. The same is true for Akainu. In this battle, not to mention the destruction of the G3 branch, in the end, even their naval headquarters had to bow to Li Ang. As a result, Kizaru was severely injured in the battle and sent to the medical room. He is too strong. Akainu took a deep breath and had to admit Li Ang's excellence. Chapter 113_ The curtain is over. Akainu took a deep breath and had to admit Li Ang's excellence. Fortunately, such a terrifying monster is not a pirate. If they were pirates, they would be in a lot of trouble. The question is, who will arrest Li Ang? If Li Ang is a pirate, there will be no one from the Navy headquarters who can send out to arrest Li Ang. You don't need to fight against such a monster, it can be considered a happy ending. Akainu rejoiced in his heart, said. The battle with Li Ang has left an indelible mark on his heart. Especially the moment when Kizaru was hit hard. He had imagined that if that fierce slash attacked him, what would happen to him? I'm afraid, the result is the same as that of Kizaru, and he will also be severely injured and sent to the infirmary for treatment. If he is unlucky and is directly pierced through the heart, then he can only die. Instruct the staff to rebuild the G3 branch. Warring States looked at the divided naval branch, sighed and said helplessly. Next, how to explain it to the people above is the key. Carp waved his hand, knowing that. Hearing this, Sengoku's face became more and more heavy, and he sighed, one step at a time. No one wants such a thing to happen, but helplessly, this monster is too powerful. We have done our best. When the world government is to blame, the first person to take responsibility is Sengoku himself. As for whether he will be stripped of the position of marshal, it is unknown. All in all, the Warring States period will inevitably be severely criticized by the 5 old stars, which is unavoidable. As a marshal, on behalf of the naval headquarters, I bowed my head to a person. This is definitely a great shame for the 5 old stars. Diaresis, if they are not satisfied, let them try to deal with Liang. After they provoke Liang, they will find out where we are now. The Warring States' face was calm, and he said bluntly. That's right, now, get back to the Navy headquarters. There's a lot of trouble. Cap raised his head and looked at the blue sky. This is the first time he has suffered such a brutal defeat. Joining forces with Sengoku and Akainu still can't keep Liang, and it will be a battle he will never forget in his life. It can only be said that Liang is really too strong. So powerful that even if so many of them join forces, they cannot shake the situation. Cap, don't think about it, he's very different, I can feel it, he's very different from us. Sengoku's eyes were lost, recalling Liang's terrifying speed and swordsmanship, and said. He can feel Zhao Wangzhao that they and Liang are 2 types of people at different levels, so they don't have to ask for trouble to be compared with a monster like Liang. Marshal, I will organize the staff first and let them rebuild the G3 branch. After Akainu surrendered to the report, he left. The remaining Sengoku and Garp were helpless, shaking their heads and sighing constantly. The other side. Liang walked steadily, and gradually walked to the shore, ready to leave this sea area. The matter is over, and the rest has nothing to do with him. As for whether the world government will send someone over to assassinate him, he will not care about this kind of thing at all. You can kill as many people as you want. At this time, Liang stopped in his footsteps and turned his head somewhat unexpectedly. Behind him, a figure appeared with a smile and said, Mr. Liang, I don't know, are you interested in discussing a cooperation with me? Chapter 114 _ The World Shakes. This person, wearing a pink feather coat and a pair of sunglasses, was looking at Liang with a smile on his face, not caring about the surrounding scene at all. He, of course, is Doflamingo in the Chihuahua. For Doflamingo, Liang will have more or less memories in his head. However, he didn't understand why Doflamingo was looking for him. What cooperation? Liang asked with a smile. I have entered into a partnership with you in the name of King Dressrosa. My business will share half of your interests, what do you think? Brother Doflamingo paid his blood this time and looked at Liang seriously. Half the interest, you are really willing? Liang was even more surprised and laughed. If you give up, you will gain. I think if I cooperate with you, the benefits I can reap will be higher. Doflamingo smiled and didn't hide it. What do I need to do? Liang continued to ask. Hearing this, Doflamingo replied, it's enough to hang a name and take a little shot when there is a crisis. As for the transaction, I will give you a bill, and you don't need to pay for the rest. Much worry. Meaning, I just need to level the enemy. Liang asked with a smile, okay, I'll think about it, and I'll contact you when I'm excited. Now, I don't have time to touch these things. I want to take a good rest for a month and then talk about it. If you please, my door is always open for you. Doflamingo said solemnly. He never missed any opportunity to cooperate with Liang. No matter how small the chance, he has to work hard. After all, If he really pulls Li Ang into the same camp, then the difficulties he will face in the future will be easily resolved. Even if the 4 emperors stand in front of him, he cannot be afraid. Goodbye. Li Ang waved his hand, but without turning his head, the figure gradually disappeared from Doflamingo's sight. I see. Li Ang stepped on the moon, the speed was very terrifying, and he disappeared into the sky in a blink of an eye. Stamina value is 999,999, naturally does not have to worry about falling into the sea due to lack of stamina in the middle. On the contrary, from here, he can use the terrifying speed and the moon step to directly return to the magic triangle, which is not a problem for him at all. Looking at the back of Li Ang leaving, Doflamingo took a deep breath and his face was firm. In any case, he needs to cooperate with Li Ang. In this way, the business will grow bigger and bigger. Without Li Ang's cooperation, Doflamingo's business would be limited to one area, and he would not dare to spread outside. He could not bear the consequences of this alone. If Li Ang joins, the result will naturally be different. At that time, even if the 4 emperors are dissatisfied and want to do something, they will have to weigh their own strength and whether they can collide with Li Ang. And this is what Doflamingo wants. Only if it has a deterrent effect on the 4 emperors, in the future, his business will naturally reduce the trouble. If there is no such deterrence, I am afraid that a person with Kaido's character, maybe, will directly snatch his resources and show no mercy. Doflamingo would not think that Kaido would be merciful because everyone is a partner. Once there is a dispute over interests, the one who makes concessions must be Doflamingo. Because Kaido's strength is too strong, so Doflamingo is afraid. Chapter 114 _ The world shakes, please customize it. Because Kaido's strength is too strong, so Doflamingo is afraid. It is for this reason that Doflamingo is desperate to find an ally. After searching for so long, the most suitable candidate is Li Ang. Hopefully, it won't take too long. Diaresis. Doflamingo whispered to himself, looking at the blue sky and white clouds in the sky, said. However, no matter how long, he seemed to have to wait for Li Ang's response. Other than that, he had no choice. In addition to Li Ang looking for him, he will find Li Ang himself. Not only will not usher in any turning point, on the contrary, his impression will be pulled to the bottom. At that time, Li Ang was disturbed, and Li Ang didn't kill him, it was already very good. Thought here. Doflamingo turned around without hesitation, without even looking at the battlefield in front of him, kicked his feet, and stepped on invisible lines like a bird, left here directly, and returned to Dressrosa. Originally, the purpose of his coming here was to cooperate with Li Ang. Now, the purpose has already begun. As for whether it is successful or not, it all depends on Li Ang's own intentions. Anyway, what Li Ang meant, Brother Doflamingo couldn't control him, nor did he have the ability to influence Li Ang's decision. Today, the G3 branch is divided into 2. This picture has spread far and wide in the sight of many pirates. Li Ang retreated completely. He really did it. With his own power, he shook the high-level combat power of the entire naval headquarters. Even the terrifying old men like Warring States and Carp were dispatched. However, a general was hit hard. In the end, Li Ang retreated completely. Diaresis, this battle will be recorded in history with far-reaching significance. Li Ang's name will also be known to everyone. This is a monster who can shake the naval headquarters by himself. Quote. The pirates were boiling with excitement. At the same time, the image worms also transmit the pictures taken in front of them to each island. Immediately, the whole world boiled over. The Navy headquarters brewed for 3 days, assembled Shichibukai, and 2 generals, including the Marshal and the hero Carp, were dispatched. This power, even in the face of the 4 emperors, will not be timid at all. But in front of Li Ang, they still ushered in a defeat. It can't be said to be a defeat, it can only be said that they can't keep Li Ang, and it is difficult for Li Ang to kill all of them. The 2 sides seem to be at a stalemate. But this is the case, and there are very few people who can do it. Except for Liang, the whole world, I'm afraid it can't find the second person who forced Hai's army headquarters to submit. Even fierce people like Kaido and Red Hair can't do it. Only Liang can do such a feat, so it is widely spread and talked about. The huge sea area was swept by this news. Countless ordinary people felt extremely shocked. My God, the Navy headquarters, it's too soft for Liang. Marshal of the Warring States period bowed his head in person. This matter is absolutely accurate. Is it really possible? Could it be that I saw a hallucination? This is the Navy headquarters. How could it be possible to bow to a person? It's terrifying. From now on, no one dares to provoke Liang again. This person is the object of fear, even the Navy headquarters. 4 emperors, that's all. Countless rumors circulated in the sea, falling to everyone's ears. At the same time, the Navy headquarters also issued some notices according to what Liang had promised. Chapter 115 _ The 4 emperors are all ashamed. Big event, big event. The Navy headquarters issued a notice. This time, the Navy headquarters apologized to Liang. First, they mistakenly thought that Liang was a pirate and issued a wanted order. At this time, it turned out that Liang was not a pirate, so the wanted order was withdrawn. Quote. Second, Liang also announced here that he is not a pirate, he is just an unrestrained ordinary person who has no interest in the throne of the Pirate King. It turns out that Liang is not a pirate. So it seems that the Navy headquarters bowed their heads, not to a pirate, but to a strong man. Quote. With the press notice from the Navy headquarters, everyone has learned something. The pirates were a little stunned, and immediately, they shouted with grief and indignation. How is it possible? How could Liang not be a pirate? But then again, what Liang does is not like what a pirate should do. He also didn't set up a pirate group, like a Lone Ranger. I still take Liang as an example. Who knows, he is not a pirate. But in the same way, his strength is still very strong. Even if it is not a pirate, it is very scary that he can press the Navy headquarters to bow his head by himself. Many pirates talked about it one after another. At the same time, many civilians were slightly relieved. Fortunately, Liang is not a pirate, so the Navy headquarters is not bowing to Pirate 427. So, next, how should the Navy deal with the pirates, or how to deal with it, without causing some confusion because of bowing to Liang? This is the place where many navies and civilians are relieved. The revocation of the bounty list is not an important matter. On the contrary, the fact that Liang is not a pirate has caused a lot of discussion among pirates. But these remarks have little to do with Liang, and he will not care about these remarks. The news has spread far and wide, and has spread to the New World. New World, Cake Island. Here, is one of the 4 emperors, Charlotte Lingling's station. Inside a palace made of desserts. Charlotte Lingling was constantly eating desserts, listening to her son Charlotte Katakori's words with a smile on her face, and sometimes asked questions. What do you mean? Liang alone has overwhelmed the Navy headquarters. Also, let the Navy headquarters bow their heads. Yes, mother. Katakori nodded solemnly and said. When it comes to the name Liang, even he is nervous for a while. If they want to go to war with Liang, I am afraid that their 4 emperors, Big Mom, may not have the ability of Liang. On the contrary, there is a great possibility that it will be destroyed by Liang. Especially after this war, it made countless people understand Liang's true strength. Fighting against Sengoku, Carp, Akainu, Kyabu, and many other Chiwehe with one's own power is the most terrifying place. It's just the power of one person. If this person wants to build a force, countless people will rush to join him. A force formed in this way is simply stronger than the 4 emperors. Is this man so strong? Charlotte Lingling was all smiles, her eyes twinkling. Aware of Charlotte Lingling's expression, Katakori felt anxious for a while, took a deep breath, and said, Mom, this person, we really can't move. I know. Charlotte Lingling nodded, glanced at Katakuri, and said, do you think I don't have a head? Since he can overwhelm the Navy headquarters, it shows that he has extremely terrifying strength. I just sigh with emotion. If I can reproduce with him, the strength of this descendant will be terrifying. But at present, it is not advisable to take hard measures. His strength is too strong and must be treated with caution. Chapter 115 _ The Four Emperors are ashamed. I just sigh with emotion. If I can reproduce with him, the strength of this descendant will be terrifying. But at present, it is not advisable to take hard measures. His strength is too strong and must be treated with caution. It would be perfect if he volunteered. Charlotte Lingling said with a smile she thought was beautiful. Hearing this, Katakuri felt a lot of pressure, but don't deny Charlotte Lingling's words. However, the second half of Charlotte Lingling's words made him almost spit out today's breakfast. Although he is Charlotte Lingling's son, Katakuri still understands his mother's appearance, which is nothing in his eyes. But in the eyes of others, Charlotte Lingling's looks are not flattering. Especially for a man like Liang, whose strength is called a monster, want to voluntarily reproduce with Charlotte Lingling. I'm afraid, this is basically something that exists in a dream. In reality, such a thing cannot happen at all. Mom, your beauty will definitely captivate him. Before that, we can't act rashly. What do you think? Katakuri said tentatively, temporarily stabilizing Charlotte Lingling's emotions. That's it. Charlotte Lingling nodded and Lang smiled. Immediately, Katakuri wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and hurriedly announced his departure. This man is so fascinating. Charlotte Lingling's face was full of excitement, and a domineering arrogance swept the audience. In the New World, a huge ship sails on the sea. This ship is known as the Moby Dick that sailed the entire sea. Whitebeard sat on the chair, reading the newspapers and magazines from the Navy headquarters in his hand, and laughed. Singwo, Carp, these two guys are finally shriveled. Dad, what makes you so happy? Marco, Diamond Yoja, and others came over, smiling unabated, and asked. Liang. The Whitebeard laughed loudly. Liang is so terrifying that I feel ashamed. He alone forced the Navy headquarters to bow their heads. This person has a bright future. If he is a pirate, I think that after Roger, he is the protagonist of the era. Unfortunately, he said later that he is not a pirate, he is just an ordinary commoner. Liang. Marco and Jose looked at each other, a little astonished. He really succeeded. Not only did he destroy the G3 branch, but also the naval headquarters was suppressed by him alone. Yeah, that's why I said that the two old guys, Garp and Warring States, are almost losing face. Whitebeard nodded, his smile unabated, and he was in a very happy mood. Seeing that his old opponent was so aggrieved, his mood was self-evident. Even Dad, are you ashamed of yourself? Marco was startled, the corners of his mouth moved slightly, and he whispered. Even at my peak morale, I'm not as good as him. It's a fact, and there's nothing to deny it. The strength of one person was far from being able to make the Navy headquarters bow down, but he did it. Not as good as him. Whitebeard nodded solemnly and said. Hear this. Marco, Jose, and many captains all felt a burst of surprise in their hearts. The person who can make Whitebeard feel inferior, I'm afraid, Liang is the first. Even Roger didn't make Whitebeard feel inferior. However, Liang did it. Chapter 116 _ Straw Hat Gang Who Strayed into the Magic Triangle. This day. The most popular news on the sea is naturally about Liang. The things that the pirates talked about were all things that Liang was alone, and the Navy headquarters couldn't even raise their heads. But to their dismay, Liang also announced that he was not a pirate. As a result, the morale of the pirates also gradually decreased. The Navy, after this defeat, has also restrained recently. Marin Vando, the Marshal's office. Boo boo. The phone bug rang. Warring States raised the phone bug, and before he could speak, he heard a huge roar. Warring States, what are you doing? You are still a marshal, and you bow your head to a person. Although he is not a pirate, this is not an excuse you can explain. You still think about how to make up for the mistakes you have made next. Today, the Navy headquarters is notorious, causing many kings to resent it. If these kings unite, it will be a terrifying force. Your Navy headquarters is the source of their eagerness. The words of the 5 old stars came out. Obviously, the Navy headquarters bowed to Liang, not what they were happy to see. Liang's strength was subconsciously ignored by them. They don't care about the process, they only care about the result. The improper handling of the Warring States is his problem, and they don't think about how difficult the situation was in the middle of the Warring States, and they only care about the results. If you are not satisfied, you can kill Liang yourself. If you can kill him, I have nothing to say. Even if I give up the position of marshal, it is not a problem. Warring States' face was heavy, his mood was very irritable, and he said coldly. In this case, hearing the people of the world government complain here, his heart naturally exploded with anger. Dealing with this matter made him very upset. At this moment, the 5 old stars were indiscriminate and reprimanded him. The clay figurine also has a 3-point fire. The Warring States period couldn't hold back at this time, and it attacked immediately. Wu Laoxing was choked, and his anger increased significantly. As a marshal, these are things you should consider. You still want us to do it? If we do, what's the point of asking you, the marshal? Then don't blame me for doing this. Warring States looked out of the field and said flatly. He is already broken. If the 5 old stars are not satisfied, he is free. Anyway, he has done what he should do. At that time, he must bow his head. If he doesn't bow his head and the battle continues, the Navy can't take such a tragic blow. Furthermore, Liang will not suffer any losses due to this battle, everything is just a unilateral loss of their naval headquarters. This kind of battle is absolutely not allowed to continue. The phone bug finally hangs up in silence. After hanging up the phone bug, Sengoku was silent and depressed. In the end, the 5 old stars did not remove him from the post of marshal. Because, in this period, there is no second person who can take over. Only one person in the Warring States period can be qualified for this position. Liang. The corner of Warring States' mouth moved slightly, he shook his head and sighed, very helpless. These 2 words have become taboos in the Navy. No one wants to mention these 2 words. Liang alone, weighed down the face of the Navy, and the Warring States period as a marshal also bowed his head, not to mention the Navy soldiers below. The Great Channel, the Magic Triangle. The fog shrouded, and the heavy fog covered people's vision. A pirate ship gradually sailed to this sea area. After this period of time, Liang's reputation became louder and louder, and fewer pirates dared to come here. It has been tacitly assumed that this sea area is Liang's chassis. Who dares to run wild here? Even if Chiwahai came here, he had to nod and bow. Chapter 116 _ Straw Hat Gang Who strayed into the Magic Triangle. And LT, 29 and GT. Even if Chiwahai came here, he had to nod and bow. After all, this is Liang's chassis, a terrifying figure who can overwhelm the entire Navy by one person. The 7 people of Chiwahai added together can't resist Liang's reputation alone. The pirate ship sailing to this sea area has a flag of a skeleton with a straw hat. Recently, the Straw Hat Pirates appeared in the public eye. On board, Luffy wearing a straw hat was bored. Frankie, are you there yet? Don't worry Luffy, we're going to get lost here. Frankie also had a trace of sweat on his forehead, said. If nothing else, this place is called the Magic Triangle, and the terrifying 3-masted sailing ship is here. Luo Bing's face was a little dignified, looking at the mist in front of him, said. Magic Triangle. Nami Mae's eyes widened, round and round. She lost her voice. Didn't you say? Look. Usopp pointed to the front and shouted. The tattered pirate ship. Zoro and Sanji's expressions were a little heavy. This was the 6th time they had seen the tattered pirate ship here. Here, it can give people a sense of direction in the secret room, and then be trapped here for the rest of their lives. This is the 6th time. Next, how many pirate ships will we encounter? Nami grabbed her hair with some collapse and said. It's about to log ashore, and there's a huge island ahead. Frankie looked forward with his eyes and reminded in a low voice. Looking up close, a huge black shadow appeared in front of them. Do you want to log in? Luffy was full of smiles and looked excited. 0. The time spent sailing at sea made him a little bored. Luffy, be careful, don't fall. Chopper waved his hand and said quickly. Seeing Luffy standing at the bow of the boat, he was about to fall, which made me a little nervous. Don't worry, Chopper. Luffy laughed, jumped up, and jumped directly to the shore in front of him. I'm back here again. A skeleton was trembling all over, sending out a sinister smile. Brook, don't be like a ghost. Nami raised her forehead and said. Nami-san, I'm a ghost. Brook let out his peculiar laugh. Excuse me, can you show me your little nene? Go away. Nami threw a punch, knocking Brook away. This is what they met halfway when they first entered the magic triangle. A skeleton can talk, it really makes them feel a little excited. However, everyone has the same goal, so let the other party board the ship. Subsequently, the Wanli Sunshine stayed on the shore. Luffy and the others gradually logged in from the shore. Seeing the gloomy environment ahead, Nami and Usopp were a little nervous and scared. Let's get out of here. It's a little scary here. Usopp said in a low voice. Yes, I agree. Nami said quickly. On the side, Chopper also looked around nervously, and dared to save the 3 youngest of them. Chapter 117 _ Do not enter that area. What are you afraid of? Luffy is a daring master. His head is full of fear. Instead, he is extremely curious. Looking at the gloomy environment ahead, his smile does not diminish. Immediately, he rushed in immediately. Hey, Luffy, don't be impulsive. Zoro raised his brows and shouted quickly. But he could only watch Luffy's back disappear gradually, followed by a helpless expression. What an impulsive guy. Sanji also seemed very helpless and said slowly, Next, let's all go in. Be careful, something is wrong here. Robin thought calmly and said slowly. However, everyone still entered in unanimously. En route. Robin said, As far as I know and understand, it is said that there is a terrifying monster who is here to forge the fate. Please don't provoke him. Monster. Is it a ghost? Chopper's fur exploded, and he asked nervously. Ghost. Brook laughed, yo hee hee, and put his skeleton face next to Chopper's side. Are you talking about me? I'm a ghost. Ah. Chopper also shouted in cooperation, and quickly jumped behind Usopp, staring at Liang. Okay, don't scare Chopper. Usopp pinched Chopper's shoulder a little helplessly and grabbed him. However, here, zombies are absolute. Brook's tone was smiling. Suddenly, Usopp shivered all over, threw Chopper on the ground, and said nervously, Zombie. Yeah, the person who lives here, called Moonlight Moria, is a hateful guy. He can strip people's shadows. Just like me, the shadows are stripped away, and I can't leave this area in my life. So, I'm here to get my shadow back. Brook's words were very firm and said. Peeling off the shadow, why is it so scary? Nami's face paled and she couldn't help saying. Is it scary? It won't die, it's just that I can't get out of this area. After so many years, I've come here too. Brook laughed very optimistically and was completely unaffected. He looked at Robin and asked with a smile, By the way, Miss Robin, which monster are you talking about? Recently, there has been a lot of uproar in the sea, and with his own power, he overwhelmed the terrifying monster that made the headquarter of the Navy bow its head. It seems that he lives in this area. Robin's pretty face became solemn and said. Well. Brooke had never been out of the magic triangle, so naturally he didn't know this, and asked, who is he? Shouldn't it be? Nami's expression changed dramatically. This person's name is also a taboo, and even the Navy is reluctant to mention it, and her strength is terrifying to the extreme. It's him. Robin nodded, his pretty face very heavy. Entering this area means that they are very likely to meet that monster. Who are you talking about? Usopp scratched his head and asked. Sanji smoked a cigarette and said, Liang. Liang. Usopp's pupils shrank. Chapter 117 _ don't enter that area, please customize it. NLT, 31 and GT. Usopp's pupils shrank. In this sea area, there are basically no people who don't know Liang. This is a real monster who can use his own power to suppress a terrifying figure who can't even raise his head in the naval headquarters. Here, they actually encountered such a monster. Otherwise, let's go back. Nami backed away, her pretty face pale and bloodless. Liang's reputation is too loud. If she really wants to meet this monster, I'm afraid, her legs will be soft and unable to move. Before, hundreds of pirate groups came here, and then all died. Thousands of people were able to leave alive in the end. Only hundreds of people. Robin continued, with a pretty face full of seriousness. Is it so scary as you say? Brooke was a little confused, but he never knew that there was a person like Liang here. However, being able to suppress the Navy headquarters with the strength of one person can be considered quite a terrifying figure. Much scarier than that. Zoro also said in a low voice with a somewhat heavy face. However, he was also quite conflicted. On the one hand, he is unwilling to meet Liang. On the other hand, as a swordsman, he wants to meet Liang again, and wants to see the swordsmanship level of this so-called New World's largest swordsman, and how far apart he is. Although he knew that he could not defeat the opponent, he just had this kind of idea. Even Hawkeye was defeated. He himself has no chance to defeat Liang. He is no match for Hawkeye's knife, and wants to compete with Liang who defeated Hawkeye. This is undoubtedly a fool's dream. All in all, we must not enter his area. If we rashly alert him, we will all die here. This matter, we must let Luffy pay attention to it. Robin continued. That's right, I'm afraid that this guy Luffy will provoke him. Then we will really be in trouble. I don't want to die in this fucking place. Nami nodded and said. Usopp also nodded in agreement, as did Chopper. The timid trio are naturally afraid of such monster-like characters. Not to mention defeating Hawkeye, just suppressing the Navy headquarters, this matter, can make them all be scared. They don't know the power of the Navy very well, but every time the Navy that comes to pursue them is very powerful. And under so many Navy arrests, it is a problem for them to escape, let alone fight back. However, only relying on one person, Liang achieved the suppression of the Navy headquarters. What a terrifying feat, it made them daunted. Where's Luffy? Nami came back to her senses and asked. I don't know. Zoro scratched his head and said, let's spread out to find him, we can't let him run around here. If we provoke those 3.5 monsters, I'm afraid, we will really be wiped out. Although I don't want to admit it, this monster is indeed terrifyingly powerful. Sanji nodded in agreement. Afterwards, the crowd was divided into groups of 2 and acted separately. Coincidentally, Robin and Nami were in a group, and Nami was holding Robin's arm timidly, looking around nervously. On the ground, Graves stood up, making Nami's heart almost jump out. Robin, there won't be any zombies here, right? Nami quickly looked for comfort. Yes, since Brooke said so, there must be zombies. Robin shook his head and said bluntly. The breeze blew in and rolled up Nami's smooth hair, which made her spine wet with cold sweat. She felt uneasy, and kept looking around, for fear that she would be suddenly attacked by zombies. NLT, 32 and GT. Chapter 118-2 Guests ushered in the castle. Robin, don't scare me. Nami grabbed Robin's slender arm and dared not let go, said. The so-called zombies are just made by the capable ones. They are not the zombies that people say, nor the zombies you imagine. So, there is nothing to fear. Robin looked straight ahead, his face was calm, and he smiled. The environment ahead was dark. A faint breeze blew in, rolling up her smooth purple hair, revealing that delicate face, still unaffected by such a gloomy environment. Her mentality is far more than that simple. Nami glanced at Robin calmly, and said in a low voice, if I knew earlier, I asked Sanji to come here. It's too scary here, and I don't even want to walk around here. Come on, let's go ahead and take a look. As soon as Robin's words fell, he left alone. Wait for me. Nami got goosebumps from the cold wind, her scalp was numb, and she looked at the graves around her, making her little heart almost jump out. 28 She immediately took a pair of long legs and quickly chased after Robin. Ah! Nami accidentally sprained her foot and fell to the ground, her whole body covered in mud. What's wrong? Robin stopped, turned his head to look at Nami, and walked quickly. Twisted my foot. Nami stood up with difficulty, but her left foot became visibly red and swollen, making it difficult for her to walk. Moreover, the unpleasant smell on her body was really unbearable for her. This is the soil of the tomb. No, I have to find a place to clean it. Nami's pink lips parted slightly, trembling. Her whole body was covered with the mud of the grave, how could she feel better? Keep going, maybe, we will find that there is a river, but not necessarily. Robin supported Nami and said. Yeah. Nami nodded lightly and walked forward. Soon. Robin was a little surprised when he saw a castle standing in the dim environment ahead, and said, in front, there is a castle. The castle, anyone. At this moment, Nami doesn't have much fear. She can't wait to clean up the dust on her body, and she doesn't want to get too many bacteria in the tomb. Thinking of this, she felt a chill and asked, let's take a look. Good. Robin nodded calmly, and Nami gradually approached the castle in front. The two women looked up and saw that the castle was several tens of meters high. The building had the beauty of an ancient castle, but it was a completely new building material. I don't know if there is anyone inside. Nami thought to herself, took the initiative to come to the gate, and knocked on the gate. Crunch. Before the door rang, the door was pushed open by her strength, revealing the whole picture inside and showing it in her sight. Open by yourself. Nami took a half step back nervously, almost forgetting that her left foot was swollen, and she almost fell to the ground. Be careful, if there is no accident, this castle is newly built. But at this moment, there should be no one here, otherwise, they will notice our arrival. Robin looked at the dim environment inside and thought. She just took a step and stepped into the castle. Chapter 118-2 Guests ushered in the castle. And LT, 33 and GT. She just took a step and stepped into the castle. The flames on both sides ignite automatically, illuminating everything here. Robin, help me find a place to bathe. Nami gritted her silver teeth, and the swelling and pain in her left foot made her a little unbearable. But what she wants to do most now is to clean the stains on her body first, and then think about the injury to her left foot. Come with me, there is no one here, and it would be rude to disturb us rashly. However, the situation is urgent, and I can't think about it so much. Robin supported Nami and walked to the depths of the castle step by step. In the quiet castle, only the footsteps of the two girls were left, which echoed in my ears and never dissipated. This castle is empty. Nami walked for a long time, her left foot was red and swollen, and she almost burst into tears, but she still couldn't find a place to bathe, so she couldn't help complaining. I found it. Robin pointed to the front and said. The silence here made her feel a little strange and heart palpitations. No man's castle. Robin took a deep breath and said, Nami, Hurry up, we can't delay for too long. Moreover, the owner of this castle doesn't know when he will come back. We must hurry up, if the people here find out, we are thieves. Soon. Nami Jung nodded and said. Immediately, she limped to the bathroom in front of her, but just after walking a few steps, she noticed the dim environment around her, the corners of her mouth trembled, and her pretty face showed a little panic. What's wrong? Robin noticed Nami's strangeness and asked. I'm a little scared. Nami smiled embarrassedly, and said timidly, Robin, come with me, anyway, we are all women, so there is nothing to worry about. It's just that I have a sprained left foot, so you can do it too. Help me undress. As soon as possible. Robin nodded, understanding Nami's mood. Immediately, she walked to Nami's side, glanced at the surrounding environment, helped Nami into the bathroom step by step, and closed the wooden door. When the lights came on, the bathtub in the huge bathroom was pure white, crystal clear, and very beautiful. The area of the entire bathroom is quite wide, which surprised Nami. Finally found it. Nami breathed a sigh of relief, feeling the stains on her body, and she felt nauseated for a while. Contaminated with the soil on the grave, it was so uncomfortable. She first checked whether there was any problem with the shower head. After seeing the gushing water, she exhaled heavily, and then gradually took off her clothes. Robin, come and help. Nami wanted to take off Xiao Nene, but she couldn't squat down, looked at Robin with tears in her eyes, and said. At this moment, she seems to have shown the figure of the devil. Although she is not very old, her figure is already quite perfect. She was also looking at her two balls with satisfaction, and her expression seemed very confident. There were still many stains on her body that had not been cleaned in time, and they looked dirty. Hearing Nami's shouting, Robin came helplessly and helped Nami take off all the remaining clothes. An original appearance with a little stain, but it was difficult to hide the crystal clear skin, appeared in front of Robin's eyes. In order to ease the atmosphere, Robin carefully looked at Nami's figure and said with a smile, Nami, I can't believe that your figure is still so good. That's that. Nami smiled confidently, turned on the shower, and the water stains slid down the track. She took advantage of the situation and used the shower gel by the window on her body, with a refreshing expression on her face. I finally cleaned these stains. At this time. Dong dong dong. A voice appeared faintly, causing both Nami and Robin to be stunned. NLT, 34 and GT. Chapter 119-2 Exquisite Works of Art. Who, is the master here back? Nami was nervous, and her pretty face was apprehensive. I don't know, I'll go out and have a look. Robin shook his head, moved his steps, and was about to leave. But then, Nami grabbed Robin and said, Don't go, I'm here alone, I'm really scared. I'll clean up as soon as possible, and we'll be able to leave soon. Well, that sound doesn't sound like footsteps to me either. Maybe it was the sound that the wind blew something and fell to the ground. Robin explained with a touch of comfort. It turned out to be so, I was almost frightened. Nami smirked and washed her body quickly. By the window, a breeze blew in, making her feel chilly. Robin, do you want to wash it too? After walking for so long, you must be sweating profusely. Nami lay down in the bathtub, looked at Robin, and said with a meaningful smile. No need. Robin shook his head and said. Don't worry, there are not many opportunities like this. It's not easy for us to find such a safe place to bathe on this island. Nami said with a smile. Well then, I did sweat a bit. Robin couldn't stand Nami's words. She smelled the smell of her clothes, but she didn't feel any smell, but her body was indeed a little greasy, which made her a little unbearable. Women, more or less, have some cleanliness. Soon. Robin took off his clothes, and a more mature body than Nami appeared in front of Nami. Wow, Robin, your figure is perfect, so envious. Nami's eyes lit up and she stared at Robin, said. Hearing this, Robin's rare pretty face was slightly red, and he quickly washed his body and wiped it with shower gel, saying, "Nami, don't waste any more time, hurry up. If the master here finds out, it's troublesome." "Yeah." Nami shook the water stains and threw them on Robin's hair, and laughed loudly. "Robin, you still want to lie to me, this castle has no one at all. Don't make trouble." Robin's purple hair was gradually covered with water stains, and said helplessly, "Ha ha ha." Nami smiled unabated, shaking the water stains and foam on Robin's body. At this time, Robin was also a little playful, and immediately turned the shower to Nami's delicate face, and said with a smile, "Nami, let you have a good taste of what cruelty is." Don't. Nami was a little unbearable to be washed by the water, and quickly clapped her hands and struggled. Her orange hair gradually became full of water stains. The two women were in the bathroom, and there was laughter like a silver bell. For a while, the two of them forgot that the place they were in now was an unfamiliar castle. The two women were in a ball in the bathroom, and they even broke through the limit, attacking each other's indescribable positions, and they played very happily. "Robin, you're so soft." "Nami, you bastard, don't move." "Robin, I envy you so much, you're almost a circle older than me." "You're not bad, let me take a good look." Don't, I'll admit defeat, don't." Quote. Click. At this moment, the gate of the castle gradually opened. A figure appeared at the gate, and at the same time, beside him, there was a lovely and charming girl, wearing a princess-like dress, floating in the air, holding an umbrella. "Sir, I'll go first." Chapter 119-2 Exquisite Works of Art. NLT, 35 and GT. "Sir, I'll go first." Perona laughed. The young man standing beside her was naturally Li Ang, who had returned from the G3 branch. After a little delay, Li Ang returned to his castle. "Well, let's go." Li Ang stroked Perona's pink hair and smiled. Immediately, Perona was obviously very excited and left here. "It's been a long time since I came back, castle, not much has changed." Li Ang twisted his arm and looked at the surrounding walls with a smile. The seat on his waist was empty. He had already returned the black sword Chushui to the swordsman Longma. This guy was training hard, so Li Ang would not disturb the other party. "Take a shower first, and then talk to Perona about your ideals in life." The corners of Li Ang's mouth curled into an arc, and he smiled. When he just took the first step, his footsteps stopped abruptly, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the domineering look spread over the entire castle. "I said, how do you feel? There are outsiders." "Sure enough, who is it? Who has the courage to come to my castle? Besides, it's still in the bathroom." Li Ang's eyes flickered, and he moved closer to the bathroom in front of him. At the same time, his keen ears also heard the sound from the bathroom. Although it was blocked, it still allowed him to hear it clearly. "Robin, don't scratch there." "Nami, it turns out that your most sensitive part is your ears. I've caught your weakness. Next, it's your turn to bear my attack." "Diaresis, I can't help it anymore. Robin, be careful, I'm going to fight back." No, Nami, you." Quote. "Robin, Nami." Li Ang was a little surprised, and his footsteps stopped again. Could it be that the Sao Ma group has arrived at the Terror Bark? Thief, in the bathroom is actually Nami and Robin. Moreover, it seems that the two of them are bathing. Thought here. Li Ang's smile became even brighter. Unexpectedly, when he caught the thief, he actually caught two such beautiful thieves. Immediately, his footsteps did not stop, and he directly arrived at the door of the bathroom. Standing in front of the bathroom door at close range, he could clearly hear the sound coming from inside. "You came to my castle, how dare you be so arrogant?" Li Ang smiled and pushed open the door directly. Crunch. The door opens. There was a fragrance in the air, and a foam was fluttering. Ang's eyes, he also saw two exquisite bodies like works of art. Robin and Nami were stunned. The two of them were holding each other's indescribable position. The scene was extremely bloody. Is this a lily? Even Liang was in a trance for a while. His eyes moved, and he carefully glanced at the devil figures of the two girls. Very nice. The two women's figures are quite graceful, more feminine than Perona's figure. In addition, they were originally tall, which made their long legs as straight and white as jade exposed, and appeared in Liang's eyes without any obstructions. They're all pretty, and Robin is better and taller when it comes to stature. Liang was comparing the two women and finally came to a conclusion. In terms of appearance, the two women are the same, both equally beautiful. The skin tone is that Nami is closer to white, while Robin is closer to a healthy wheat color. The figure is obviously better than Robin. And LT, 36 and GT. Chapter 120 _ come and want to go. At this moment, Robin and Nami stared blankly at Liang, forgetting to cover their key positions. Their beautiful eyes were round and her red lips were slightly parted, and said, You. I came to my place, and I rashly made a scene here without the consent of my master. Do you really think it's okay? Liang looked at the two girls with a smile, feasting his eyes. The bodies of the two women were all seen by him, and those so-called bubbles could not be stopped at all. Ah! Immediately, the two women reacted, and quickly picked up the clothes and stood in front of them. Menu stared at Liang, and said, Who are you? Who am I? Liang smiled and said again. Are you the master here? Nami's heart lingered, and her pretty face was tense. By the way, although I don't want to say it, I still have to remind you one thing. Liang glanced at the exposed positions of Nami and Robin, and said with a smile, If you are like this, you can't block the key positions. Pervert. Nami's pretty face was flushed, she bit her pink lips and said viciously. Satyr. I don't agree with that. After all, this is my castle 933. And you, thieves, you entered here without my permission. Why are you blaming me for coming? Liang moved his footsteps and gradually moved towards the position of the two women in front. You, don't come here. Nami hurriedly shouted. Robin's pretty face was also a little rosy, but he could still maintain a calm mind. He looked at Liang. After seeing Liang's face, his expression changed dramatically, and he quickly said, We are abrupt. Let's leave here. After speaking, Robin didn't care about wearing clothes anymore, and hurriedly pulled Nami, ready to leave. Wait a minute, Robin, I'm not dressed yet. Nami screamed, especially walking in front of Liang, which made her face hot. Ouch! Nami's left foot was swollen again, and the pain made her cry, Robin, what are you doing in such a hurry? Let's reason with him. If you don't go, you won't have a chance to go. Robin leaned against Nami's ear and said solemnly. Well, why? Nami was puzzled and asked. He is what I said before, that monster. Robin, CICG, took a deep breath. Her mood was difficult to calm down, and it made her ups and downs that month, which was pleasing to the eye, and men were afraid to spit blood for it. Liang. Nami was startled, her pink lips parted slightly, her face full of horror. Unexpectedly, I encountered that terrifying monster. They are too unlucky. Afterwards, Robin pulled Nami, no longer caring about Nami's pain, and prepared to leave immediately. The two exquisite works of art swayed constantly in front of his eyes, causing Liang's blood to rush to his forehead. Want to go? It's not that easy, is it? As soon as the words came out, Robin's footsteps stopped abruptly. Chapter 120 _ come and want to go. And GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. And LT, 37 and GT. As soon as the words came out, Robin's footsteps stopped abruptly. Nami's whole body seemed to be stuck in an ice cave, and she felt uneasy. They didn't even care that they were exposed in front of Liang. At this time, Liang carefully inspected the two women from bottom to top, and he was amazed by the stains. That pair of long legs that are as white as jade, coupled with the devil's graceful figure, slender waist, and delicate facial features, is simply the lover in a man's dream, perfect to the point of flawless. What do you want? Nami was terrified and trembled. I'll do the math for you, your crimes. Don't talk like I'm a criminal, but now I'll show you who the criminal is. Liang said with a smile, the first point is that you entered the house without permission, which is my castle. You can't deny this. Nami and Robin did not deny it. Indeed, they did not have Liang's permission. But, you weren't here before. I called someone, but no one responded. I broke into you privately only if I had to. Nami bit her pink lips and explained in a low voice. So, you mean that as long as there is no one in the castle, you can enter the castle boldly. Without any crime. If you say so, those thieves are innocent. Liang shook his head and chuckled. Robin didn't refute either, not to mention that they really didn't care. It was said that the person in front of her was Liang, so she did not dare to act rashly. The word Liang represents too much weight. Second, you used my belongings without my permission. You can't deny this. You have consumed my body wash, but you have to compensate. Thirdly, as the owner of the castle, I'm back, but you still want to deny it, and the crime is one more level. To sum up the above, your sins can be described as very serious. Liang's mouth moved slightly, evoking an arc, and smiled lightly. These sins, Robin and Nami cannot deny. Immediately, Robin said tentatively, we can make up for it. Yes, we can make it up. How much does the shower gel cost? I can be compensated 3 times by you. No, 10 times. Isn't it Barry? I have a lot here. Nami exhaled heavily, feeling slightly relieved. At this moment, the two women have forgotten that they are now fully exposed to Liang's eyes. However, because Liang's name was too loud, they were in a state of fear and did not remember in time. They were all seen through by Liang. Barry. Liang laughed dumbly, looked at the foam on the two women before they could wash away, and said, my shower gel is expensive. Just looking at the ones you two use, you need to pay 1 billion bells. So, when you say you want to pay it back tenfold, do you want to give me 10 billion bells? If so, I can let you out of here right now. 10 billion Barry. Nami's pink lips trembled, and she lost her voice. You made it clear that you are trying to embarrass us. Where can shower gel be so expensive? At most 10,000 Barry. I'll give you 10 times that, 100,000 Barry. That's because you have little knowledge. I said it was expensive, and it was expensive. Could you please compensate me for the exact same shower gel? If not, then it is priceless, and it is inevitable that it will be more expensive. 10 billion bellies, can you compensate? Give me an accurate answer. Liang walked to a position about 3 meters in front of Nami and smiled. At close range, he could smell the direction emanating from the two women. Moreover, the hot figures of the two girls lingered in his eyes, and he couldn't move them away.